Year 2225. Earth is basically a giant sandbox, and not the fun kind. 70% of the planet turned into desert. Food. What food? Even China, the legendary farming gods, can only give each citizen 50 grams of vegetables per week. 50 grams. That's like 2 sad lettuce leaves. So here I am, Lin Tian, squeezing what looks like a toothpaste tube into my mouth. This is breakfast, lunch, and dinner rolled into one comprehensive nutrient paste. Imagine melted plastic had a baby with expired pudding. 5 years of eating this stuff, and my stomach still wants to riot every single time. Other transmigrators get to be princes, billionaires, or at least some trash young master with a magical grandpa waiting in a ring. Me? I got zapped here when I spilled beer on my keyboard back in my old life as a programmer, and now I drool like a dog every time the cafeteria screen announces Cabbage Day. Cabbage. I'm literally Pavlov's dog for vegetables. My ancestors are rolling in their graves. The only inheritance my body's original owner left me? A skinny noodle body, pocket change, and several terabytes of educational materials, very well organized. Museum quality, honestly. Completely useless for survival. But hey, in a world with zero entertainment, a man's gotta do his academic research. Then, right in the middle of my very important studies, boom. A giant robotic voice explodes inside every human brain on Earth. Planet resources below 10%. Reboot initiated. Welcome to the war continent. Every country gets one random champion sent to fight in another world. Die 3 times. Your entire country gets erased from the map. Like, physically deleted. Gone. Poof. Light pillars shoot up everywhere. America got some Green Beret captain. They're already popping champagne like they won the Super Bowl. Russia got a colonel they call the Violent Bear. Vodka bottles are flying. Japan sent a sword master. India sent a yoga monk. Every nation pulled out absolute units. And then, all eyes turned to the Chinese flag, waiting to see who we got. I put my hands together and prayed harder than I've ever prayed in 2 lifetimes. Please be a super soldier. Please be a farming genius. Please be literally anyone competent. Anyone. 14 billion Chinese hearts stopped beating at the same time. The screen lit up with my name. China's representative, Lin Tian. Occupation, unemployed college graduate. Yeah, that sound you just heard? That was the entire nation face-planting into their desks simultaneously. The internet exploded faster than my old keyboard. People were crying, screaming, trying to book flights to America. Someone literally asked if I was going to fight monsters by submitting my resume online. Fair point, honestly. Meanwhile, I'm standing here blinking like an idiot because 1 second I was at my computer doing research, and the next, whoosh, I'm on a hillside surrounded by giant ancient trees. And the air? Oh my God, the air. It was sweet. Actually sweet. Like breathing liquid candy after 5 years of inhaling sand and sadness. I almost passed out from the sheer luxury of oxygen. The system gave me the rundown. 200 dead planets, 23,000 contestants. Everyone wants to kill everyone. Here's some wood and food. Good luck, don't die. Oh, and there are locals here who'd love to use my head as a football. Wonderful. Very encouraging. 5 stars. Then I looked at my wrist and found a fancy smartwatch. Cool. Until I saw what it said. Live broadcast. On. Current viewers. 1.4 billion. 1.4 billion people watching me right now. My brain short-circuited. I did what any reasonable person would do in a life-or-death survival situation. I waved at the camera and immediately begged everyone to please, for the love of all that is holy, do not open the folder called Study Materials on my D drive. That's private academic research. Very important. Do not touch my computer. The chat went absolutely nuclear. Apparently, my survival priorities are hilarious to people. After securing what truly mattered, I took a deep breath and started scouting. The soil here was dark and rich. My inner farmer was tingling. Good sun, nice temperature, spring vibes. Years of playing Civilization and Age of Empires were about to pay off. Hopefully. Maybe. Please. I picked southeast and started walking. Every step crunched softly on the mossy ground. The forest was thick, mysterious, probably full of things that wanted to eat me. What I didn't notice was the faint green glow flickering on the soil where I'd been standing. And my town heart was still sitting in my inventory, waiting patiently for me to stop being an idiot and actually use it. Back on Earth, The big bosses were having a meltdown. Picture this, a top-secret underground bunker, so much cigarette smoke you could use it as a fog machine, and a dozen of the most powerful old men in China, all staring at a giant holographic screen showing me, stumbling through a forest like a drunk tourist. Real inspiring stuff. The Grand Elder dropped the news. They get to call me once a week. 5 minutes. That's it. 5 minutes to save a civilization. Also, they're setting up an official broadcast channel with expert commentators, a weapons historian, a military strategist, and a TV host to keep things entertaining. Basically, they're turning my survival nightmare into a talk show. Wonderful. Meanwhile, everyone online was losing their minds watching other countries' players absolutely crushing it. Russia's Violent Bear Colonel already set up his town center on a perfect hilltop. Some desert nation's guy spawned next to a river with resources everywhere. And me? Still wandering through the woods like a lost puppy with asthma. My lungs were on fire. My legs felt like someone welded them to the ground. Every breath sounded like a dying accordion. I cursed the original owner of this body with every step. Dude must have considered walking to the fridge his daily cardio. Strange animal noises kept coming from the darkness between the trees, and every mysterious rustle made my soul try to leave my body. Gotta find shelter before dark, or I'm literally going to be monster food. I kept going, running through every survival tip I'd ever picked up from movies, games, and random videos. Near water, but not too close. High ground. Natural barriers. Easy to defend. Basically shopping for real estate in a death forest. After what felt like 10,000 years of hiking, right when I was about to collapse and have a nice chat with the original owner in the afterlife about his hard drive collection, I pushed through one last wall of vines and my jaw hit the floor. A valley. A massive, gorgeous, absolutely perfect valley. Steep mountains on both sides like natural fortress walls. A crystal-clear river cutting right through the middle, about 10 meters wide. And on both banks, almost a kilometer of flat land with soil so dark and rich it was practically begging me to plant things in it. This is the jackpot of all jackpots. I almost cried actual tears. Water, farmland, natural defense. It was like God accidentally gave me the cheat code after all. Zero hesitation. Not even half a second. Deploy the town center. Right here. Now. The town heart flew out of my inventory, floated over the grass, and started glowing, drawing the outline of a building in midair. And that's exactly when everything went wrong. The town heart was doing its thing, glowing and building, when suddenly the system started screaming errors like a Windows computer from 2003. Error. Unknown energy. Rule conflict. Then, plot twist, it detected something special about my soul. Apparently dying via beer on keyboard qualifies you for bonus content. A new message popped up. Would you like to merge with the Age of Empires management system? Age of Empires. My game. The last game I played before I died. The universe was finally paying me back. Yes. Merge. Now. Immediately. Before you change your mind. The merge completed in seconds. 100%. Done. And then, the system said, goodbye, and disconnected. Like a one-night stand leaving before breakfast. Hello? System? System daddy? Where's my tutorial? Where's my starter pack? Where is customer service? I screamed at the sky for 3 solid minutes until my throat almost caught fire. Every other transmigrator gets a system that stays forever. Mine ghosted me after 60 seconds. Absolute trash boyfriend energy. But when I turned around, my anger melted. There was an actual compound standing where empty grass used to be. A legit ancient-style brick building with curved roofs in the center, 2 thatched huts on the left, a round warehouse on the right, all surrounded by a wooden fence covering about 20,000 square meters. Not exactly a palace, but better than sleeping in a bush waiting to be eaten. Inside the main building, I found a black stone tablet glowing with information. My base stats, level 1 town center. Population 1. That's me. Soldiers, 0. Resources, 100 food, 100 wood. The building menu was there too, farms, houses, a lumber camp, and one special option, Age of Empires barracks. So the system did leave me something before running away. Like finding a $20 bill in your pocket after getting dumped. The prices though? Highway robbery. Everything costs a fortune, and I'm starting with pocket change. Not even a dog to keep me company. Time to think. I spent 80 food to recruit 4 farmers. For pillars of white light hit the ground, and boom, 4 young dudes in rough clothes appeared holding axes and hoes, immediately dropped to one knee and yelled, "We live and die for you, my lord." Super awkward. Super cool. I pretended to be chill about it. Guys, please stand up. And maybe use your indoor voices next time. I checked their stats through the tablet. Lin 1 and Lin 4 had a gathering bonus. Lin 2 was a farming specialist. And Lin 3, oh baby, C-rank talent with a combat gift. My future warrior right there. Time to play boss. I sent Lin 1 and Lin 4 to collect berries, mushrooms, and easywood near the fence. Lin 2 practically glowed with excitement when I told him to find the best soil and start our first farm. Dude was born for this. And Lin 3, my strongest guy, got the most important job of all. Follow me around and make absolutely sure nothing eats me. He looked me dead in the eyes and said, "Nothing will touch you unless I'm dead first, my lord." A little dramatic, but honestly, exactly what I needed to hear. So here I am. Day 1. One courtyard, for farmer bros, zero clue what I'm doing, and an entire nation watching me fumble through it. My glorious career as an otherworld lord has officially, clumsily, hilariously, begun. I got everyone working and finally felt like a real boss for about 5 minutes. Took Lin 3 on a tour of my massive empire. 20,000 square meters of weeds, bushes, and dirt. 3 football fields of absolutely nothing. Living the dream. The river, though? Chef's kiss. Crystal clear, little fish swimming around. Water tasted like liquid heaven. No giant claw prints on the banks. No chewed-up animal skeletons. So at least nothing huge had been hanging around here recently. Small victories. Back at base, I started spending resources like a kid with birthday money. Built a lumber camp for 40 wood. Watched it materialize out of thin air in an hour. Moved Lin 1 and Lin 4 inside. And suddenly these two were cranking out wood like machines. 10 units per person per hour, 12 hours a day. That's 240 wood daily. Way better than picking up sticks like cavemen. Lin 2 found the perfect farming spot near the river and was already attacking the dirt with his hoe like it owed him money. I dropped 10 wood on a farm plot, gave him the starter seeds, and boom, my food supply chain was officially online. First harvest in 6 hours. Not instant noodles fast, but I'll take it. For one beautiful moment, I stood there watching my little operation hum along and thought, this is actually working. I might not die today. Then Lin 3 grabbed my arm and whispered, "My lord, something's coming." I pressed my face against the fence and peeked through the gaps. The bushes were shaking. Low growling filled the air. And then 2 absolute units stepped out of the forest, wolf things, except uglier and angrier than any wolf has the right to be. Fangs like kitchen knives. Eyes glowing green. Both staring directly at my farmers. And at me. Specifically at me, the skinniest, most defenseless snack in the whole valley. Back on Earth, 14 billion people simultaneously screamed at their screens. Run. Hide. It's over. Someone literally typed, "Is heaven accepting Chinese citizens?" My brain went into overdrive. Run? Where? The fence is basically decorative. Fight. With what? Lin 3's dollar store axe and my noodle arms? Wait, the barracks. The Age of Empires barracks. I can make soldiers. I checked my wood, 65 units. Barracks cost 100 units. I'm 35 short. Lin 1 and Lin 4 literally just started chopping wood 5 minutes ago. The wolves took another step closer. Time. Yeah, I don't have any of that. Time stopped. 2 nightmare wolves came charging at my fence like it was made of toothpicks. Which, honestly, it basically was. Lin 3 jumped in front of me screaming, "Get back, my lord," with murder in his eyes. Very heroic. Very appreciated. But one guy with a garbage axe versus 2 demon wolves? The math wasn't mathing. My brain kicked into survival mode. I looked around desperately. Buildings, tools, junk pile. Junk pile. Stones and sharp sticks. My inner caveman woke up from a million-year nap. Lin 3, don't block them head-on. Dodge. Lin 1, Lin 4, grab rocks, now. One wolf smashed through the fence like it was cardboard. The other one came straight for me, the easiest meal in the valley. I grabbed a rock and threw it with everything I had. Bonk. Right on the nose. Turns out wolf noses are sensitive. Who knew my useless knowledge from nature documentaries would save my life? The beast howled and stumbled. I kept throwing. Second rock. Third rock. My aim was terrible, but I was running on pure terror, which is apparently a great motivator. Lin 1 and Lin 4 charged in with sticks and axes. Lin 4 went for the absolute power move, swung his axe right between the wolf's legs. Only got a shallow cut, but the wolf was not happy about the attempted vasectomy and turned on them instead. Then the big brain moment hit me. Those broken branches with sharp ends. I could make spears. I grabbed Lin 4's axe and started chopping like a madman, shaving a thick branch into something pointy. My hands went numb, splinters everywhere, technique absolutely 0 out of 10, but I didn't care. People were bleeding. 1 minute later, I had the world's ugliest spear and threw it to Lin 3. The second that beautiful man got a longer weapon, the whole fight changed. Reach advantage is real. He stabbed the first wolf deep in the shoulder. I made a second spear for Lin 1, and suddenly my farmers were poking holes in wolf number 2 from safe distance. But we were running out of steam. Lin 3 was bleeding from multiple cuts, slowing down. Lin 1's arm was torn open. I could barely lift my arms. The wolves were hurt, but angrier than ever. Then Lin 2 appeared out of nowhere. My farmer. The quiet dirt guy. No weapon except his farming hoe. He snuck around the back, waited for the perfect moment when wolf number 2 was distracted, and swung that hoe straight into the beast's knee joint. Crack. The leg bent sideways in a direction legs should never bend. The wolf collapsed like a broken table. Lin 1 and Lin 4 went absolutely feral on it with their spears. Meanwhile, wolf number 1 saw its buddy dying and hesitated for just 1 second. 1 second was all Lin 3 needed. He lunged forward and rammed his spear through the wolf's open mouth, out the back of its neck. Both wolves down. Fight over. I stood there shaking, covered in sweat, surrounded by blood and dead monsters, and 4 beaten-up farmers breathing like broken engines. Then my legs gave out, and I sat down hard on the dirt. We won. With rocks, sharpened sticks, a farming hoe, and 4 absolute legends who refused to die. Back on Earth, the chat exploded. People were crying. Lin 3 is a god. That HOE strike was legendary. Maybe the unemployed kid isn't so bad at this. I checked my wood supply, still 65. Still can't build the barracks. But right now, I had something better. 2 giant wolf carcasses full of meat, fur, bones, and tendons. The crisis just became my starter pack. Lin 2, patch up the wounded. Lin 4, help me drag these ugly things inside. We're eating meat tonight, boys. The sun went down and I was standing over 2 dead wolves thinking, these ugly things are going to save our lives. Lin 4 got to work butchering them by moonlight. Not glamorous, but every chunk of meat that went into storage made my heart sing. First wolf, 180 units of food. Second wolf, 175 units. Grand total, nearly 400 units of food. We went from, might starve tomorrow, to, we're eating like kings for a week. Also scored 2 complete wolf pelts, for bones, and 8 fangs. Not exactly a shopping spree at the mall, but in the apocalypse, wolf teeth are basically luxury goods. Night fell, and I set up a watch rotation like I actually knew what I was doing. Lin 1 resting inside with his injuries. Lin 2 patrolling first half. Lin 3 taking over at midnight. Lin 4 sleeping the moment he finished his wolf surgery. Me? I lay on a terrible bed staring at the ceiling, flinching at every howl in the distance, pretending I wasn't terrified. Longest night of my life. Every weird noise made my soul leave my body for a second. But nothing attacked us. Sometimes the universe throws you a bone. Pun absolutely intended. Morning hit, and I jumped up like a man possessed. 1 mission, build. That. Barracks. Lin 3 and Lin 4 sprinted to the lumber camp. The chopping started, and I watched the wood counter like a psycho. 66, 67, 68. Come on, come on. When that number finally hit 100, I slammed the build button so fast I almost broke my wrist. Every single piece of wood gone, 0 in the bank. But a glowing military building started forming in the middle of my base, and I didn't care about being broke. 1 hour later, the barracks stood there looking all serious and intimidating next to my sad little farm and tiny lumber shack. Beautiful. I pulled up the training menu and started drooling. Militia, archers, swordsmen, actual soldiers with actual weapons. Then I had my big dramatic moment. Called Lin 3 over, the hero who shoved a spear through a wolf's mouth yesterday. Got down to business. Lin 3, you've proven your courage. Will you become my first imperial swordsman? He dropped to one knee, eyes burning. I'll follow you to death, my lord. Perfect. System, upgrade Lin 3 to imperial swordsman. System response. Cost, 80 food, 50 wood. You have 313 food and 0 wood. Transaction denied, 0 wood, 0. I just spent every last stick building the barracks and completely forgot the upgrade also costs wood. Lin 3 was still kneeling there, looking up at me with big hopeful eyes, and I was standing there with the expression of a man who just tried to pay for dinner and got his card declined. So, slight change of plans, buddy. Go chop some more trees. We'll do this later. He took it like a champ, grabbed his axe, and marched back to work even harder than before. Meanwhile, the entire Chinese internet was laughing at me. He forgot about the wood. Math is hard. Someone get this man a calculator. Fair enough. I deserve that one. Back to waiting and watching numbers go up, one log at a time. Food crisis solved. Nearly 400 units of grub in the bank. Time to stop surviving and start building. First order of business. I need more people. One guy chopping wood is like trying to fill a swimming pool with a teaspoon. I marched to the stone tablet and slapped down 160 food for 8 new farmers. Yeah, it hurts spending that much, but you gotta spend money to make money, or in my case, spend wolf meat to make civilization. 8 pillars of light later, I had 8 fresh recruits standing in front of me, men and women this time, all bright-eyed and ready to work. All D-rank talent, nothing fancy, but I didn't need geniuses. I needed hands. I went full middle manager mode. You 4, lumber camp now? You 3, go help Lin 2 build more farms. And you, help patrol and fix the fence. Everyone scattered like ants who just found a sugar cube. The lumber camp went from one lonely axe sound to a full-on percussion concert. Chop, 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 chop. Music to my ears. 5 people chopping means 50 wood per hour. Math I can actually do. 1 hour to get Lin 3's upgrade materials. For once, the waiting didn't feel like torture. I even did a little leadership walkthrough, visiting the workers, nodding approvingly like a CEO who has no idea what's happening but wants to look important. The new farmers worked twice as hard when they saw me. Boss presence effect is real. Would hit 50. I called Lin 3 so fast he probably got whiplash. Get in the barracks, big guy. 30 minutes of glowing and transforming later, Lin 3 walked out, and I nearly fell over. Gone was the sweaty farmer in rags. Standing before me was a warrior, studded leather armor, iron sword, reinforced shield. He looked like he could punch a wolf in the face and the wolf would apologize. Imperial Swordsman Lin 3, reporting for duty. I'm not crying. My eyes are just sweating. Immediately queued up an archer. System said I was 5 wood short. Again. But this time I just shrugged. 5 wood at our chopping speed is like a 6-minute wait. Amateur hour mistakes are behind me. Mostly. Soon enough, out walks my first ranged unit. Imperial Archer, codename Hawkeye. Reporting. Hawkeye? The system gave him a cool name and everything. Meanwhile, I'm still called unemployed college graduate on the global leaderboard. Life isn't fair. I sent Lin 3 and Hawkeye out as a 2-man recon squad, sword and shield up front, bow covering from behind. Scout 1 kilometer up and down the river, map everything, note resources, and for the love of everything, come back alive. They disappeared into the valley looking like actual professionals. Meanwhile, my base was humming. 5 axes swinging at the lumber camp. 5 farms being built simultaneously. Guards patrolling. 14 people total under my command. Up from just me and my sad toothpaste breakfast 24 hours ago. The Chinese viewers were finally getting excited. Now we're talking. Spam farmers, this is the way. This actually feels like Age of Empires. Someone even said they felt, raising a pet satisfaction, watching my base grow. I choose to take that as a compliment. Current situation, 103 food, wood regenerating fast, 5 farms about to come online producing 600 food per day, 2 real soldiers on patrol, and for the first time since I got here, actual hope that I might not completely embarrass my entire country. Keyword might. While I was busy playing SimCity in a death valley, the other country's champions were doing their thing too. America's Green Beret already had 3 militia in tight formation clearing bushes like a military textbook. Dude built a watchtower and was standing on it looking cool. Classic. Russia's Violent Bear was turning his base into a literal fortress, His guys were hammering massive logs into the ground to build walls thick enough to stop a tank. His motto? Make it hard like Siberian permafrost. Meanwhile, I'm over here with a fence that a house cat could knock over. But hey, I had farms. For beautiful dirt rectangles full of future food. And 5 guys turning trees into lumber at maximum speed. Not as flashy as fortress walls, but you can't eat walls, can you? Lin 3 and Hawkeye came back from scouting looking like action movie heroes. Fresh claw marks on Lin 3's shield. 2 arrows missing from Hawkeye's quiver. Whatever they ran into, they handled it. The report was gold. Upstream, a stone quarry. Stone. The stuff I need for advanced buildings and real weapons. Downstream, a massive berry field, basically a free supermarket growing in the wild. Bad news. More animal tracks everywhere. And those creepy little green creatures across the river? There are more of them now. They keep watching us and hiding. Super comforting. Not unsettling at all. I started barking orders like a general who'd had too much coffee. Sent 3 guys to claim the stone quarry and bring back samples. Sent 2 more to mark and harvest the berry field. Trained a new militia soldier, basic spear and shield type, nothing fancy, but another body between me and anything with teeth. That training cost me 50 food though, dropping me to 53 units. The internet immediately panicked. He's going broke, too aggressive. Someone teach him budgeting. Yeah, okay, money's tight. I recruited 8 farmers in one shot, upgraded Lin 3, trained an archer and a militia guy, all in basically one day. My spending habits look like a college student with their first credit card. But here's the thing everyone keeps forgetting. Tomorrow those 4 farms kick in. 480 units of food per day, every day, forever. Today I'm broke. Tomorrow I'm a food factory. Current head count. Me, 11 farmers, 1 swordsman, 1 archer, 1 militia. 15 people in a valley that had 0 humans yesterday. Stone quarry being claimed. Berry field getting harvested. Lumber production on autopilot. Only 2 problems keeping me up at night. Those green little creeps across the river are multiplying, and I have a sneaking feeling they're not just shy neighbors. Day 3 started with a wake-up call from hell. 2 death announcements blasted through every player's brain like an alarm clock designed by Satan. France's guy? Stung to death by giant bees. Bees. Australia's dude? Tried to steal eggs from something that looked like a pterodactyl. The pterodactyl disagreed. Strongly. These weren't NPCs. These were real people representing real countries. And now they're just gone. 2 nations down to 2 chances each. The game suddenly felt a lot less like a game. My food had dropped to 33 units overnight. Normally that would give me a heart attack, but I had 4 golden fields of grain waving at me in the morning breeze like beautiful, edible cheerleaders. Harvest. Now, Lin 2 and his crew hit those fields like their lives depended on it, because they literally did. First field, 120 food. Second, 120. Third, 120. Fourth, 120. The number shot past 500, and I swear I heard angels singing. The famine arc was over. We were officially food-rich. Meanwhile, the global chat turned into an international roast session. America's fans were laughing at me for playing Farmville. Japan's Swordmaster had already collected 3 monster heads like Pokemon badges. Russia was bragging about fortress walls that could stop a bear. And someone from Korea called me a system-dependent farmer boy. My Chinese viewers fired back hard. At least he's alive. Your French chicken and Australian kangaroo already lost a life. Farming is the meta. Idiots. Honestly, I love my people. I didn't have time for internet drama though. Death announcements tend to sharpen your priorities real fast. I threw 150 food and 60 wood at the barracks and ordered 3 militia soldiers. 30 minutes later, 3 fresh spearmen walked out looking like actual military personnel. Combined with Lin 3, Hawkeye, and my first militia guy, I now had 6 combat units. Not an army, but not a joke either. Then Lin 7 and Lin 8 came back from berry picking with some disturbing news. They found weird footprints. Not animal, not human, something in between, leading upstream. Almost certainly connected to those creepy green creatures across the river. The ones that keep watching us and multiplying. My gut told me waiting for them to come to us was a death sentence. France waited. Australia was careless. Both paid the price. Lin 3. Take 2 militia and Hawkeye. Cross the river. Find those green things. I want to know how many, where they live, how they fight, and whether we need to hit them before they hit us. I said, hit them first, like I was some kind of hardened commander and not a guy who was eating toothpaste nutrition gel 3 days ago. But the death announcements changed something in me. Playing safe gets you killed in this world. Playing smart keeps you alive. For soldiers crossed the river and vanished into the trees on the other side. I watched them go, feeling the weight of every decision pressing down on my chest. Food, 363. Wood, climbing. Stone, starting to trickle in. 6 fighters. 11 farmers. 1 very stressed, unemployed college graduate running the whole show. The farming phase was ending. Whatever came back from across that river was going to decide whether my next chapter was expansion or funeral. I had just finished settling in 10 new farmers and training 2 fresh archers when Lin 1 started screaming from the fence like he'd seen a ghost. My lord, something's happening across the river. I sprinted over and saw Lin 3's squad bursting out of the tree line on the other side, looking like they'd been through a blender. Lin 3's shield had deep slash marks carved into it. 1 militia guy's armor was ripped open and bleeding. Hawkeye's quiver was half empty. These guys went in looking like soldiers and came back looking like survivors. Lin 3 marched up to me, still breathing like a broken engine, slammed his fist on his chest, and dropped the bomb. My lord, we found a goblin camp. Goblins. Of course it's goblins. Every fantasy world has goblins. It's like a mandatory starter villain package. But these weren't cute little green idiots. 30+ adults, a dozen wooden huts, organized patrols with sentries, and 5 or 6 of them had slingshots that could crack your skull from a distance. My recon team got spotted, fought off 7 or 8 attackers. Hawkeye killed 2, Lin 3 wounded 1, and they barely escaped getting surrounded. Did they follow you back? I asked, trying to sound calm while my insides were doing gymnastics. No, they stopped at the river and screamed at us, then went back, so the river was our safety line. For now. But 30 goblins versus my 8 combat units? That math was ugly. The International Peanut Gallery was already running their mouths. America. Told you farming was useless. Japan. Our sword master handles this stuff solo before breakfast. My Chinese fans clapped back with, at least he knows what he's fighting. Unlike the French guy who got killed by bees, I needed to think. Charging in with 8 guys against 30+ enemies would be suicide. Running away wasn't an option. This valley is my home. So I chose door number 3, psychological warfare. Lin 3. Rest 1 hour. Then take everyone who can fight. All 4 militia, all 3 archers, and yourself, to our side of the riverbank. Full formation. Full display. His eyes lit up. He got it immediately. 1 hour later, 8 soldiers lined up at the river like a recruitment poster. For spearmen in front, shields locked together, spears pointing at the sky like a metal forest. Lin 3 in the center looking like a war god. 3 archers behind with arrows ready. Forward, shield strike, thrust, fire. They drilled formations right there on the bank. Shields clanging, spears stabbing in unison, boots stomping the ground. Then 3 arrows screamed across the river and buried themselves deep into tree trunks on the other side, still vibrating from the impact. The goblins lost it. Green figures scrambling through the bushes, shrieking like scared children. They'd been watching our sad little fence and pathetic farmer operation this whole time, thinking we were easy prey. Now they were staring at organized troops with real weapons doing synchronized combat drills. Surprise, idiots. The intimidation worked. They scattered and hid. But I'm not stupid enough to think screaming goblins are defeated goblins. They're still there. Still 30 strong. Still a tumor growing next to my base. Scaring them buys time. It doesn't buy safety. I glanced at my resources. 350 wood, stone trickling in, food production humming along nicely. A plan was crystallizing in my head. More soldiers. Better gear. Upgraded base. And then, no more waiting, no more scaring. We're going over that river and burning that camp to the ground. The river scare show worked. For about 5 minutes. Those green little psychos didn't leave, they just got quieter. Which is honestly scarier. I sat down with my stone tablet and did the math that every great leader dreads. Accounting. Food. 137 units. Sounds okay until you realize my daily burn rate is 40 units just keeping everyone alive. For farms won't harvest again until tomorrow. I'm running an empire on fumes and prayers. The system also hit me with a lovely red warning. Too many people, not enough houses. Apparently cramming 20-something humans into 2 shacks causes morale problems. Who knew? Time to build. For houses, 120 wood, gone. Then I called Lin Tian over and watched his face light up like Christmas when I told him he's getting 10 people for farming duty. The man nearly cried. "Give me the people and I'll feed the world," he shouted, practically vibrating with farmer energy. I love this guy. 10 farmers, 10 fields, 1,200 food per day starting tomorrow. We're going from scraping by to agricultural superpower. 5 guys in the lumber camp, maxed out. 4 guys at the stone quarry, drilling away. 3 on patrol. Everyone had a job. My base looked like a well-oiled machine, if the machine was made of sticks and held together by desperation. The internet was having its daily international argument. America found an iron mine. Japan's sword guy was apparently cutting boulders in half now. Russia upgraded to spiked walls. And here I was, the farming simulator champion, getting roasted by every country's fan base. My people kept fighting back, though. Who's still alive with full chances? That's right, US. Then the death bell rang again. France's 2nd representative, dead. Australia's 2nd representative, dead. Both countries down to their last life. And this time, the punishment was real. 10% of their actual homeland resources just vanished. Real geography changed. Real panic on real streets. 2 deaths in 2 rounds. These countries were speedrunning extinction. I barely had time to process that horror when Lin Tian pulled me aside with a face like he'd swallowed a lemon. The goblins have a leader now. Big one. Bone armor. Giant stone axe. The others bow to him. A goblin boss. Fantastic. Just when I thought regular goblins were enough of a headache, they went and got themselves a manager. I canceled all rest shifts. Every soldier on alert, rotating in pairs, eyes on the river 24/7. Built my houses, checked my farms, walked every inch of my fence in the dark with Lin Tian glued to my shadow. Then, in the darkest hour before dawn, a piercing whistle from upstream. Lin 1's emergency signal. The sound of metal hitting metal. Goblin screaming. Those sneaky green bastards didn't attack my main base. They went for the stone quarry, the isolated outpost with only 4 farmers and 1 guard. They picked the weakest spot like actual military strategists. These weren't dumb monsters. These were tacticians. Lin Tian. Everyone who can fight. Stone quarry. Now. Archers on high ground. Bring everyone back alive. Lin Tian smashed his sword against his shield so hard sparks flew, roared, "For the Lord," and charged into the darkness with every soldier I had. My people were fighting and dying at that quarry right now, and all I could do was stand here in the dark, listening to the screams echo through my valley, waiting to find out if I still had a territory by sunrise. Everyone around me was shaking. A young militia guy next to me looked like he was about to faint. I wanted to throw up from anxiety, but leaders don't throw up. Leaders say, "Stay calm," in a voice that sounds way more confident than they feel. So that's what I did. Meanwhile, at the stone quarry, absolute chaos. Lin 1, my day 1 guy, my first farmer, was standing in a broken fence gap like a human door, left arm bent in a direction arms don't bend, right hand swinging a stolen goblin axe, 2 dead goblins at his feet. The 4 miners behind him were back to back, swinging pickaxes at anything green that moved. Everyone was bleeding. Everyone was still fighting. Then Lin Tian's squad crashed into the battle like a wrecking ball wrapped in armor. The militia locked shields and shoved their spears forward, creating an instant wall of pointy death. The archers started picking off goblins like it was target practice. Lin Tian himself turned into a one-man blender. His sword split a goblin from shoulder to hip on the first swing. The blood spray was disgusting. Also kind of awesome. Don't judge me, but the goblin boss? That bone-armored freak charged straight at Lin Tian like an angry refrigerator. Their weapons collided so hard Lin Tian's hands split open and the ground cracked under his feet. This thing was strong. The militia line was barely holding. Shields cracking, stones raining down, goblins squeezing through every gap like violent green cockroaches. One soldier's shield shattered. Another took a rock to the shoulder. It was turning into a war of who runs out of blood first. Back at base, I was pacing like a caged animal when the most beautiful words I've ever seen appeared on my screen. For farms ready for harvest, dawn had come. The crops were ripe. Lin 2 and his team hit those fields like Olympic sprinters. 480 food units flooded into my reserves. I didn't even breathe, just slammed for new militia into the training queue. 200 food, 80 wood, 15 minutes. Reinforcements incoming. At the quarry, Lin 3 was having the boss fight of his life. The goblin chief was swinging that massive stone axe like a lunatic. All power, no brain. Lin 3 noticed something. Every time the big idiot raised his axe for a full swing, his armpit was completely exposed. No bone armor there. Just soft goblin flesh. Lin 3 faked exhaustion, stumbled backward. The goblin boss took the bait, raised his axe high for the killing blow, mouth open in a victory roar. Lin 3 dropped low, shot forward like a bullet, and drove his steel sword up through the goblin's armpit until the blade came out the other side. The boss looked down at the sword sticking through him, made a sound like a deflating balloon, and face-planted into the dirt. Boss down. The remaining goblins completely lost their minds. No leader, no courage. They scattered into the forest screaming like children who just saw a spider the size of a car. Lin 3 ordered pursuit, and his guys chased them down, leaving 20-plus goblin corpses on the battlefield. My soldiers limped home looking like they'd been through a meat grinder. 2 guys needed to be carried. Lin 1 could barely stand. Everyone was cut, bruised, exhausted, and bleeding from somewhere. But their eyes? Their eyes were on fire. I met every single one of them at the gate. You are heroes of this territory. We die for you, my lord. They rasped back, barely able to stand but meaning every word. I definitely wasn't crying. It was just valley dust in both eyes. At the same time, the goblin tribe was destroyed. Their boss was dead. Most of their fighters were corpses, and whatever survivors were left would be too traumatized to cause trouble anytime soon. Riding that high, I marched to the stone tablet with big dreams. Upgrade territory to village level. Cost: 800 food, 600 wood, 150 stone. My food: 381. Insufficient resources. Upgrade failed. I slapped my own forehead. Classic me. Getting ahead of myself again. But honestly, I wasn't even mad. My farms were pumping. My quarry was secure. My enemies were running scared. The upgrade would come. For the first time since I landed in this insane world, I wasn't just surviving. I was actually starting to win. Morning after the Goblin War. My territory looked like a hospital crossed with a construction site. Lin 3 had fresh cuts everywhere. The archers were bruised. Half the militia were limping. Lin 1's arm was basically decorations at this point. And me? I was staring at my resource panel like a broke college student checking his bank account after rent. Food: 381. Wood: 272. Stone: 52. Upgrade to village level costs: 800 food, 600 wood, 150 stone. I wasn't even in the same zip code as those numbers. I spent the morning compulsively checking the upgrade button like refreshing a package tracking page. Can I upgrade now? No? How about now? No? What about the archery range? Also no. Train a crossbowman? Stone insufficient. Every single option was locked behind that stupid red text. Resources insufficient. The system was basically slapping my hand away like a rude shopkeeper. So I did the only thing I could do: grind. Full boring, zero excitement. Watch paint dry grinding. 5 guys chopping wood. Chop, chop, chop. 4 guys mining stone. Clink, clink, clink. 10 farmers babysitting crops that wouldn't be ready until afternoon. 8 soldiers standing around looking tough at a fence. Me, pacing back and forth accomplishing absolutely nothing. The entire Chinese internet was watching me do nothing. This was literally a live stream of a resource counter going up by single digits. Peak entertainment. The world's most expensive progress bar. This is painful. He's literally just waiting. This is like watching grass grow, except the grass actually matters. Hours crawled by. Wood: 272. 322. 372. 422. Stone inched past 112. Still not enough. I could feel my hair turning gray in real time. Afternoon. More chopping. More mining. More staring. Would hit 572. Only 28 short of the 600 I needed. Stone crossed 172. Target smashed. 1 resource down, 1 agonizingly close. Then the magic words appeared. 6 new farms ready for harvest. Lin 2's crew attacked those fields like starving wolves at a buffet. Golden grain flying everywhere. bundles being hauled to storage at maximum speed. 720 food units. Total, 1,101. The food problem that had been strangling me since day one? Dead. Buried. Gone forever. I had more food than I knew what to do with. My territory erupted in cheers. Farmers were hugging each other. Even the injured soldiers cracked smiles. But the upgrade? Still couldn't do it. Because I was 28 wood short. 28. The lumber camp had already closed for the day. Those 28 pieces of wood wouldn't exist until tomorrow morning. 28. That's like being $1 short at a vending machine. The universe dangling victory in front of my face and saying, "Come back tomorrow, loser." I wanted to scream. I wanted to personally go chop a tree with my bare hands. Instead, I took a deep breath, looked at my people, and gave the most inspirational speech a man who's been cock-blocked by lumber can give. The food crisis is over. Stone target exceeded. We are 28 pieces of wood away from evolution. Tomorrow morning, first light, we finish this. Lin 4 yelled back, "Yes, SIR," like those 28 logs had personally insulted his mother. That night, everyone sat around the campfires with a completely different energy. Not fear, not desperation, just pure, crystallized anticipation. We all knew exactly what tomorrow would bring. 28 chops. One upgrade. A brand new chapter. 28 stupid pieces of wood. I'm going to dream about them tonight. I know it. The whole world was watching my wood counter like it was the World Cup final. 572, 582, 592. I swear I could hear a billion people holding their breath. I slammed my hand on that stone tablet so hard I'm surprised it didn't crack. Upgrade 2 village level. 800 food, 600 wood, 150 stone, gone. My resource panel looked like my bank account after Black Friday, but I didn't care. A massive pillar of light engulfed my entire base, and the 6-hour transformation began. But I'm not an idiot. Well, not today anyway. I immediately harvested 4 ripe farms for 480 food and kept every worker grinding during the upgrade. Lumber camp chopping, quarry mining, not a single person sitting idle. 6 hours of free resource accumulation while the magic does its thing? Yes, please. Meanwhile, a quick check on the competition made me feel complicated. America's Green Beret captain just casually destroyed a Centaur outpost and was already talking about enchanting weapons. Show off. Japan's sword master solo killed a mutant giant mountain cat in a bamboo forest and was having some kind of spiritual breakthrough about his blade technique. His personal territory development? Basically zero. Dude was speedrunning the Lone Warrior build while completely ignoring that this is a civilization game. And India's guy was trying to copy my farming strategy, but kept doing the math wrong. I felt that in my soul, honestly. 6 hours passed. Noon. The light pillar exploded. Upgrade complete. Territory level. Village, level 2. Energy washed over everything. Buildings got bigger, sturdier, shinier. The territory expanded. And me. I could actually feel it. Stronger, faster, sharper senses. Like someone turned up my stats from wet noodle to slightly dry noodle. Progress. I dove into the new tech tree like a kid unwrapping presents. New troops, Imperial crossbowmen and Imperial halberdiers. New buildings, archery range and blacksmith. The crossbowmen especially caught my eye. These weren't little bows. These were machines that could punch through armor. 6 hours of grinding had stacked up 300 wood and 142 stone. Time to spend it all in 60 seconds like a shopaholic on payday. Build archery range, 120 wood, 80 stone, done. Train 4 crossbowmen, 240 food, 160 wood, 40 stone, done. Build blacksmith, got insufficient resources. Wood, 20. Stone, 22. Broke again. Naturally. But this time I planned it. Every single resource went exactly where it needed to go. The Chinese chat was actually impressed for once. His math is perfect. Not a single unit wasted. Look at me, finally not embarrassing myself with arithmetic. America's fans threw shade. He's still catching up to us. Russia said I was being too aggressive. But I knew the priority. Raw firepower now, fancy upgrades later. Those goblins were still out there licking their wounds, and I wanted to greet their comeback tour with a wall of crossbow bolts. 1 hour later, the archery range materialized and 4 crossbowmen marched out of the barracks simultaneously. They were carrying actual mechanical crossbows, cold, metallic, terrifying. The moment my existing soldiers saw those weapons, you could literally watch their morale meter shoot through the roof. The crossbow squad leader saluted me, codename Iron String. I put him under Lin Tian's command, paired him with Hawkeye for coordination, and turned my entire base into a training ground. For the rest of the afternoon, crossbow bolts and arrows screaming through the air, soldiers drilling formations, the whole valley echoing with the sounds of a territory that was done being prey. My army now: 1 swordsman, 3 archers, 8 militia for crossbowmen, 16 combat units with mixed capabilities. Not the biggest force on the continent, but definitely not the pushover everyone thought I'd be. Resources: almost zero across the board. But my farms were about to harvest again, my quarry was running, my lumber camp was full, and for the first time, I had enough firepower to actually go on offense. The farming simulator arc was officially over. The war arc? Just getting started. The upgrade glow was still fading, and I was already back at the stone tablet like an addict at a slot machine. 6 golden fields of grain were waving at me in the evening light, practically screaming, "Eat me." I didn't need to be asked twice. Lin 2. Harvest everything. Not one grain left behind. That man and his farming squad hit those fields like locusts in reverse. 6 fields, 120 food each. The system notifications going off in my head like a cash register at Christmas. Ching, 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 ching. Final food count: 1,501 units. 1,500. I went from rationing wolf meat 3 days ago to sitting on a mountain of grain like some kind of medieval Jeff Bezos. The feeling of financial security, even fake medieval financial security, is absolutely intoxicating. With my stomach problems solved forever, I went on a spending spree that would make a lottery winner nervous. For new militia? Bought. That's 200 food and 80 wood. Don't even care. Blacksmith building? 150 wood and 100 stone. Take it all. I was swiping my resource card left and right like I owned the place, which, technically, I do. The lumber guys and stone miners worked until sunset, squeezing out every last unit. By the time the day ended, I was looking at 1,301 food, 390 wood, and 162 stone. Numbers that would have made me weep with joy 2 days ago. Now they were just Tuesday. The blacksmith opened up a tech tree that made my inner gamer squeal. 3 research options: attack boost, weapon sharpness, or armor toughness, all giving 10% bonuses. I picked the attack upgrade without blinking. When you're planning to march across a river and demolish a goblin village, you don't invest in defense. You invest in hitting harder. 200 food, 100 wood, 50 stone fed into the blacksmith. The furnace roared to life. Research completing overnight. By morning, every single one of my soldiers would swing 10% meaner. I stepped outside as darkness fell and looked across the river toward the goblin forest. Quiet. Too quiet. Those green idiots had no idea what was coming. My army: 1 elite swordsman, 3 archers, for crossbowmen, 12 militia. My economy: 10 farms producing enough food to feed a small city. Lumber and stone flowing like water. A blacksmith forging upgrades while everyone sleeps. A territory that went from pathetic wooden fence to actual village in 4 days. 4 days ago, the entire world laughed at China for sending an unemployed college student. 4 days ago, I was drooling over cabbage. Tomorrow, those goblins across the river are going to learn a very important lesson about underestimating farmers. I stared at that dark tree line with the coldest eyes I've ever made in 2 lifetimes. No more waiting. No more defending. Tomorrow, we attack. Day 4. Barely slept. Spent all night staring at battle plans like a paranoid chess player. When dawn hit, the system took its daily food tax, 66 units for my entire population, and then delivered the best morning gift ever. Attack research I complete. All units 10% attack power. My soldiers could literally feel it. Grips tighter, eyes sharper. Science is beautiful. Harvested 4 morning farms, 480 food, bringing me to 1,515. Then I stood in front of my entire army. 21 fighters in formation. Shields gleaming, spears straight, crossbows loaded. They looked good. I gave them a speech about blood and soil and fighting for our home. Nothing too long. Nobody likes a chatty general. Do we wait for them to attack us again? No. Do we cross that river and end this? Yes. Then move out. We crossed the river at dawn, icy water up to our knees, nobody flinching. Into the goblin forest. The plan was perfect. The formation was tight. The morale was sky high. And then, we smelled smoke. Lin 3 raised his fist. Everyone stopped. Something was wrong. It was too quiet. No goblin shrieks, no patrols, nothing. Just the smell of burning wood and something deeply, disturbingly rotten. We pushed through the last bushes and found the goblin camp. Or what was left of it. The place was destroyed. Not by us, by something else. Most of the huts were burned to ashes, still smoking. Goblin corpses everywhere, throats ripped open, skulls crushed, bodies torn apart. Whatever did this wasn't subtle. It was pure, savage, overwhelming violence. The few survivors were curled up in corners, shaking, whimpering, too terrified and broken to even run from us. My entire army stood there with weapons raised and absolutely nothing to fight. Lin 3 checked the bodies. Not infighting, my lord. These are claw marks, bite marks. Something incredibly powerful attacked them last night. Multiple creatures. They were slaughtered. Cool. Cool. So there's something out there that can wipe out 30+ goblins in one night, like it's a casual hobby. And I have no idea what it is or where it went. Super comforting. What about the survivors? Lin 3 asked, pointing at the trembling green wrecks huddled in the rubble. I looked at them. They'd attacked my people, injured my soldiers, nearly killed Lin 1. They were weak now, but weakness today doesn't mean weakness tomorrow. Clean them up, 2 words. No hesitation. Lin 3 didn't blink either. The militia moved in. 30 seconds later, the goblin problem was permanently solved. Then one of my soldiers shouted from the back of the camp, "My lord, found something." Inside a half-collapsed hut was a crude stone altar holding actual treasure. A glowing yellow crystal pulsing with energy, 3 mysterious leather scrolls covered in weird symbols, and a pile of refined iron ore. Real loot. From an actual dungeon clear. My gamer heart was singing. The moment I touched that crystal, the global announcement system went absolutely nuclear. Attention all players. Blue Star China representative Lin Tian has successfully conquered and cleared festering goblin camp, small. First territorial conquest achieved, 3 times. The announcement played 3 times across every brain on every planet. Rewards poured in. 500 food, 300 wood, 200 stone, plus a special bonus. A 24-hour buff that boosts any one resource production by 50%. The Chinese internet went thermonuclear. First blood is OURS. The unemployed kid did it. Farming meta confirmed. Someone literally broke their microphone screaming. America, how? The college kid, Japan. He just got lucky. He stole credit. Russia. He's conquering while Iwan is still building walls. I should have been celebrating. And part of me was free resources, global cloud, my country going insane with pride. But standing in that smoking graveyard, holding a warm crystal, I couldn't stop thinking about one thing. Whatever massacred 30 goblins in a single night was still out there. It was stronger than anything I'd faced. And it was somewhere in MY Valley. The goblins weren't the real threat. They never were. Something much, much worse was lurking in these woods. And it already knew where I lived. I was standing in goblin ashes holding a glowing yellow rock when my smartwatch started vibrating like it was having a seizure. A golden menu popped up with words that made my brain short-circuit. Land materialization detected. This crystal wasn't just loot. It was a teleporter. I could use it to copy land from the war continent and paste it directly onto Earth. Into China. Real land. Real trees. Real water. On a planet that's 70% desert. I sprinted back across the river so fast, I probably broke an Olympic record. Burst into my town center, slapped the crystal onto the stone tablet, and the whole building lit up like a Christmas tree on steroids. The system scanned my territory, 0.8 square kilometers of valley, river, and forest eligible for transfer. Then came the multiplier lottery. Random, between 1x and 100x. Every human on Earth was watching. 14 billion Chinese people collectively stopped breathing. City squares were packed with silent crowds. The Grand Elder and every government leader were leaning so far forward they were practically falling off their chairs. The number landed. 27x, 27 times. 0.8 times 27 equals 21.6 square kilometers of rich, green, living land about to materialize on Earth. The stone tablet erupted. Not light, power. Something dimensional, something that bent the rules of reality itself. I felt a piece of my territory's essence get pulled away, stretched across dimensions, and shoved into existence somewhere on the other side of the universe. On Earth, in the middle of the Taklamakan Desert, one of the deadest, driest, most hopeless patches of sand on the planet, alarms went off at a research station. Scientists scrambled to their screens. Satellite images came flooding in, and there it was. 21 square kilometers of life had appeared out of thin air. Rolling hills covered in dense forest, a sparkling river cutting through the center, rich black soil at the edges where dead sand used to be. It was like God accidentally hit Control-V in the wrong tab and decided to keep it. The global announcement fired. China Representative Lin Tian has materialized 21.6 square kilometers of land onto Blue Star. China went insane. People were sobbing in the streets. The TV host's voice cracked on live broadcast. The military expert slammed his desk so hard he probably broke it. 14 billion people experienced simultaneous emotional whiplash from, "We're all going to die," to, "We have an oasis in the desert." The rest of the world? Pure, concentrated, weapons-grade jealousy. America's chat went from celebrating their iron mine to a wall of WTF? Japan's fans called it a bug. Russia's people just typed, over and over. India claimed they'd do the same thing soon. France and Australia, both down to their last life, were drowning in despair and envy. The crystal crumbled to dust after the transfer. Used up, gone. But what it left behind was permanent. 21 square kilometers of farmable, livable, resource-rich land on a planet where every acre of green was worth more than gold. I stood there in my little town hall, feeling a connection to that distant oasis I'd just created, and something shifted inside me. This wasn't about survival anymore. This wasn't about not embarrassing my country. Every battle I win, every camp I clear, every crystal I find could mean more land for a nation of people who haven't seen real vegetables in years. For days ago, the world called me a joke. An unemployed nobody playing farmer in a death world. Now every country on earth knew my name, and every government was asking the same terrified question. How do we catch up to the college kid? The crystal crumbled to dust. The stone tablet went quiet, and I stood there feeling like I'd just wired 21 square kilometers of paradise directly into my motherland's bank account, which is exactly what I did. Not bad for a guy who was eating toothpaste 4 days ago. But the celebration in my head lasted about 3 seconds before reality kicked in. I just made the biggest move on the entire war continent. Every country saw that announcement. Every representative now knows that clearing camps gives you crystals, crystals give you land, and the Chinese, unemployed kid, is currently in first place. I basically painted a giant target on my back and handed out free maps to find me. Lin 3's cleanup crew came back with the goods, 20 units of refined iron ore, which is basically gold in this world, and 3 mysterious leather scrolls covered in symbols that looked like a drunk spider walked through ink. Nobody could read them. Not Lin 3, not Hawkeye, not any of my farmers. We all just stared at the squiggles like cavemen finding a smartphone. So I held them up to the stone tablet and let the magic decoder do its thing. Scroll 1, a technique called Earth Element Sensing that helps miners feel where good rocks are hiding underground. Basically a metal detector, but magical. Immediately useful. Scroll 2, a partial map showing our area, the goblin camp, the river, and, oh joy, a big scary danger symbol upstream. Probably connected to whatever murder beast shredded 30 goblins in their sleep. You know, the thing I've been trying not to think about. Scroll 3, a creepy blood ritual called Bloodthirst that temporarily makes you fight harder but absolutely wrecks your body afterward. The goblin boss probably used this. Filed under, interesting but terrifying. I sent Lin 9 and the mining crew to learn the earth sensing technique immediately. 20 minutes later, Lin 9 came sprinting back looking like he'd discovered electricity. My lord, the rocks are talking to me. I can feel where the good stuff is. Beautiful. My miners just got supernatural GPS. Meanwhile, back on Earth, the government had already locked down my oasis with elite troops and top scientists. Their reports were basically a love letter to dirt. Soil fertility off the charts, water pure enough to drink straight. unknown trees that grow insanely fast, and possible energy mineral deposits underground. The Grand Elder launched something called Project Hutu. Every top scientist in the country deployed to study and develop the new land. The rest of the world? Total meltdown. America's president was literally screaming at his staff about why their Green Beret hadn't found a crystal yet. Russia sent encrypted orders to their colonel, "Go faster. We need land." Japan's sword master got a spiritual summons from religious leaders demanding he find a sacred artifact of the Yamato spirit. India was just coping. France and Australia were on their last lives, watching me succeed while their representatives kept dying. Every country that had been laughing at China's farmer strategy suddenly had their governments calling emergency meetings, demanding their representatives stop showing off and start conquering. I kicked off weapons research at the blacksmith, weapon sharpening level 1, because sharper swords solve most problems. Ordered 4 more farm plots because food is forever king. Then I spread out the decoded map and gathered my commanders. The goblins are done, but something worse lives upstream. We're sending a recon team to find out what it is, what resources are nearby, and most importantly, if there are more of those energy crystals. Lin Tian's eyes lit up like I just told him Christmas came early. He started picking his best soldiers before I even finished the sentence. I walked to the edge of my territory and stared up the river into the dark forest. Somewhere in there was the thing that massacred an entire goblin tribe overnight. Somewhere in there might be more crystals, more chances to send land back to my starving planet. The world was watching me. My country was counting on me. Other nations were gunning for me. And I was an unemployed college graduate who just became the most important person on 2 planets. No pressure. Victory celebration lasted approximately 0 seconds before I turned back into a spreadsheet goblin. The goblins were dead, but my territory had problems. Specifically, 22 people had nowhere to sleep. I'd been so busy conquering and materializing land that I forgot my people were basically camping on top of each other like sardines in a can. Build 10 houses, 200 wood gone. Just like that. I was spending resources like a government with no budget oversight. Then I went on the biggest hiring spree in my territory's short history. 3 farmers to fill the empty farm slots. Then 10 more farmers, because why stop when you're on a roll? 13 new mouths to feed. But with over 2,000 food in the bank, I could feed a small army. Which is good, because I literally have a small army. My territory was transforming from cute little village to actual functioning economy, right before my eyes. 14 farmers working 14 fields under Lin Tian, who was basically the Minister of Agriculture at this point. The man had gone from one lonely field to commanding a farming empire in 4 days, living his absolute best life. But the real flex? 2 lumber camps, 2 quarries, 10 woodcutters, 10 miners, all working simultaneously. My resource income doubled overnight. Wood and stone were pouring in like I'd turned on a money faucet. 600 wood and 300 stone just from the afternoon shift alone. The blacksmith finished weapon sharpening research, so I immediately started armor reinforcement. My soldiers were getting sharper and tougher. Science waits for no one. Trained 4 more crossbowmen because you can never have too many guys with medieval machine guns. Then queued up 4 more because I'm apparently addicted to military spending now. Then Lin Tian's scouting party came back and dropped a bomb on my evening. Upstream, they found a wolf pack. Not 2 wolves like my first day. 50 wolves. Led by a silver-furred wolf king. 50 wolves. With a boss wolf. So that's what massacred the goblins overnight. Mystery solved. And the mystery's answer is terrifying. But, and here's the part that made my greedy little heart skip a beat, they also found exposed copper or deposits and a new materialization crystal called a water rhythm crystal stone. Another crystal means another chance to send land back to Earth. More territory for China. More hope for 14 billion people eating nutrient paste. I immediately built 2 watchtowers facing upstream because I'm not about to let 50 wolves catch me in my pajamas. Those towers went up with torches blazing, sentries posted, crossbows loaded. By nightfall, I ran the final numbers and nearly choked. Food, 2,239. Wood, 710. Stone, 452. Iron ore, 35. Total population, 50-something humans, 21 of them combat-ready. 14 farms producing enough grain to swim in. 2 lumber camps and 2 quarries running at full capacity. For days ago, I had a toothpaste tube and a skinny body. Now I was sitting on a mountain of resources with an army, a blacksmith, watchtowers, and the first successful land materialization in the history of the war continent. The entire world was scrambling to catch up to the unemployed college student. But between me and that next crystal was a silver wolf king and 50 of his closest friends, all of whom probably thought my territory smelled like an all-you-can-eat buffet. I stood on top of my town's center in the moonlight, staring upstream into the darkness where those wolves were waiting. The blacksmith's forge glowed behind me. Soldiers were training by torchlight. Resources were stacking. Tomorrow, we hunt wolves. 50 of them. With a king. Should be fun. Absolutely terrifying. But fun. I was standing on my roof staring into the darkness like a paranoid owl when Lin 3 crept up behind me and whispered the words nobody wants to hear at midnight. My lord. There are eyes watching us from across the river. Lots of them. Well, here we go. I'd been expecting this. You don't waltz into a wolf pack's neighborhood, murder their goblin neighbors, scout their territory, and expect a fruit basket in return. I ordered full battle stations. Every civilian into the stone buildings. Every soldier to their posts. The entire territory went dead silent. Just crackling torches and the blacksmith still hammering away like a maniac because apparently forging iron spearheads waits for nobody. 8 spearmen braced behind the fence. Archers and crossbowmen climbed the watchtowers and my rooftop. Lin 3 positioned himself with a reserve squad ready to plug any holes. It was textbook defense. Assuming the textbook was written by a guy who'd learned everything from video games. Then the Wolf King howled, and my blood turned to ice water. AWOO. 30-plus green-eyed nightmares exploded from the tree-line and charged into the river without even slowing down. Cold water meant nothing to these psychopaths. They hit that river like it was a sidewalk. Crossbows, fire. For bolts screamed across the water. 3 wolves went down instantly. The weapon-sharpening research turned those bolts into flying death needles. Wolves tumbled into the current, painting the river red. But the rest just trampled over their dead buddies and kept coming. 0 hesitation. 0 fear. Just teeth and murder. The archers opened up from the towers. Arrows rained down, but wolves are fast, and the lighting was garbage. Most shots missed or hit non-vital spots, which only made the wolves angry. Great. Injured wolves are famously calm and reasonable. 10 seconds later, they hit the fence. My spearmen thrust through the gaps and skewered the first 2 wolves clean through. Attack research plus weapon sharpening meant those spears went through wolf hide like butter. But there were just so many. Wolves slamming into the fence, squeezing through gaps, actually trying to climb over. These weren't animals anymore. These were furry siege engines. The left section of fence started shaking. Lin 3 sent 2 guys to reinforce it. The whole line was buckling. Snarling, screaming, stabbing, arrows flying. The sound was absolute nightmare fuel. And the Wolf King? That silver-furred genius was just standing there on the far bank like a chess master watching pieces move. Not fighting, just observing, calculating. I told Hawkeye and Iron String to target him, but the bastard stayed right at maximum range, constantly shifting position, never giving them a clean shot. Smartest animal I've ever hated. Then the fence broke. A weak connection point just snapped open and 2 wolves poured through like water through a crack. One tackled a militiaman flat on his back. The guy got his shield up just in time to block the jaws from his throat, but a second wolf was already lunging for his neck. Lin 3 materialized out of nowhere like an angry angel of death. His sword came down so hard it split the second wolf almost completely in half, head to tail. The first wolf turned to face him, and Lin 3's shield bashed it in the face, then put his sword through its heart before it hit the ground. 2 wolves, 3 seconds, 0 mercy. Farmers sprinted out with spare lumber to patch the gap, while soldiers covered them. My heart was doing drum solos against my ribs. Then the Wolf King did something that chilled me more than anything else that night. He let out one short, sharp bark, and every single wolf immediately retreated. Not panicking, not fleeing, an organized, disciplined withdrawal. They even grabbed their dead and wounded on the way out. Back into the river, back into the darkness, gone. This wasn't a wild animal attack. This was a military operation. A probe. The Wolf King sent his troops to test our defenses, find our weak spots, and pull back before losing too many. He got exactly the intelligence he wanted. Final count: 11 wolves killed, several more wounded and limping away. My side: 0 dead, multiple injuries, one guy with his arm and shoulder torn open pretty badly. The fence was chewed up, but reparable. I ordered immediate medical treatment, then told the farmers to drag every wolf carcass inside, because meat is meat and fur is fur, even at 3 a.m. covered in blood. The blacksmith promised 20 iron spearheads by dawn. Good. My wooden weapons just earned their retirement. I stood at the broken fence, staring across the dark river where I knew that Silver Wolf was staring right back at me. This wasn't over. Tonight was just the appetizer. He'd seen our fence break. He'd seen where we were weakest. Next time he'd bring everything. But next time, my spears would have iron tips. My crossbows would have better bolts. And maybe, just maybe, I'd have a plan crazy enough to take down a wolf king who fights smarter than most humans I've known. The clock was ticking. Somewhere in that darkness, a silver wolf was already planning round 2. Morning after the wolf attack, my territory smelled like a butcher shop that got hit by a tornado. Blood, sweat, iron, and regret, the cologne of war. I did a head count of my fighters. 21 total, 6 of them limping around like they'd lost a fight with a lawnmower. One guy's arm was basically held together by bandages and prayers. Not great. But then I checked my resources and nearly kissed the stone tablet. Food: 1,895. Wood: 845. Stone: 632. Iron ore: 38. Those 2 extra lumber camps and quarries I'd built? Absolute genius move. Past me was a visionary. Current me was about to spend everything past me saved. Shopping spree number 9,000. For new militia, 200 food, 80 wood, bought. For new crossbowmen, 240 food, 160 wood, 40 stone, bought. I was swiping my resource card like a man who'd seen death and decided retail therapy was the answer. Then the big purchase. The one that actually mattered. Build stone walls. Replace the wooden fence upstream. Stone walls. No more toothpick barriers that wolves could body slam through like drunk party guests. For wall sections, 50 meters each. Cost: 800 stone and 400 wood. My stone reserves went negative instantly, into a waiting queue, but I didn't care. My quarries would catch up. That fence nearly got someone killed last night. Never again. The entire territory became a construction zone. Farmers hauling stone blocks, stacking them into actual walls. Gray, solid, real walls. I touched one and it felt like safety. Like the difference between a cardboard box and a bank vault. Wolves can't chew through rock. Try it, furball. New soldiers finished training throughout the day. My army swelled to 29 fighters. 1 swordsman, 16 militia, 4 archers, and 8 crossbowmen. A real force now. I had Hawkeye and Iron String drilling the ranged units on hitting fast-moving targets because, fun fact, wolves don't politely stand still while you aim. Then Lin 3 came back from patrol looking like someone told him his dog died. My lord, they're going around us. New wolf tracks 3 kilometers downstream. They're trying to flank our position. Of course they are. Because the Wolf King is apparently a military genius with fur. He probed our front last night, found our weak points, and now he's sending scouts to find our back door. This isn't a wolf pack, it's a tactical unit with paws. I reshuffled everything. More patrols on the sides and rear. Watchtower coverage extended to full 360. Smoke signals ready for instant alerts. Every direction watched. Resources kept flowing in. 300 more wood, 150 more stone by afternoon. The wall sections were rising, inch by inch, turning my territory from vulnerable village to stone fortress in progress. I wasn't done spending. For more crossbowmen. For more archers. I wanted so much ranged firepower that any wolf approaching my walls would look like a pincushion before it got within biting distance. By nightfall, my territory looked like a hedgehog that had been lifting weights. Stone walls growing taller on the danger side. Soldiers everywhere. Crossbows loaded on every elevated surface. Torches blazing in all directions. The blacksmith hammering iron spearheads nonstop. Somewhere out there in the dark forest, a silver wolf king was circling my base, studying my defenses, counting my soldiers, and planning something terrible. And here I was, an unemployed college graduate turned warlord, staring into the blackness, whispering to nobody. Still not enough. Need more. Faster. The arms race between me and a wolf had officially begun, and I refused to lose. Night fell, and I counted my army like a paranoid dragon counting gold coins. 1 swordsman, 16 militia, 8 archers, 12 crossbowmen, 36 soldiers. 36. 5 days ago I had 0 soldiers and was fighting wolves with sharpened sticks. Now I had an actual military with specialized units and a command structure. Character development is real. Food, 1,055. Wood, 565. Stone, 387. Iron, 45. Not my richest moment, but those stone walls facing upstream were done. Well, done, in the sense that they existed and were made of actual stone instead of wishful thinking and toothpicks. Not tall enough, not thick enough, but infinitely better than the wooden fence that wolves could sneeze through. Then Lin 3 walked in with his evening intelligence report and ruined my brief moment of calm. The Wolf King is starving us out. Not literally. My farms were untouchable. But that silver-furred genius was systematically chasing every deer, wild boar, and woodland creature away from my territory, clearing the hunting grounds, cutting off supplementary food sources, like an economic sanctions package, but with teeth. Okay, we have farms, so that doesn't really. Also, they're occupying the copper mine. Excuse me? That copper mine was my future upgrade path, my strategic resource. And now wolves were sitting on it like furry squatters, marking it as their territory, probably peeing on everything. This Wolf King wasn't just fighting a war. He was fighting a strategic war, cutting supply lines, controlling resources, isolating my position. I was being out-generaled by an animal. An animal was doing better logistics than half the human representatives on this continent. Sitting behind my pretty new walls and waiting would mean slow death by resource strangulation. The wolf wanted a siege? Fine. But sieges work both ways. We're taking that copper mine tomorrow. Lin 3's eyes caught fire. Finally, offense. I designed the strike force. All 8 archers, all 12 crossbowmen, 6 of my best militia, 26 fighters total. The biggest combat operation my territory had ever launched. Their mission was surgical. Hit the mine, kill the wolves guarding it, mark the territory, grab any of those precious materialization crystals, and get back before the Wolf King could respond with his main force. The blacksmith delivered 20 iron spearheads just in time. My militia swapped out their sad wooden points for gleaming metal tips. The transformation was immediate. They went from farmers with sticks to guys you absolutely do not want to mess with. Iron changes everything. I trained 4 more militia as reserve defenders because I'm not stupid enough to send my entire army out and leave home empty. The wolves could absolutely try a sneak attack on my base while my main force was away. That's exactly what I'd do if I were a genius wolf. And this Wolf King was definitely smarter than me on most days. Crossbowmen checked their weapons. Archers sharpened their arrows. Everyone moved with quiet, serious purpose. No jokes tonight. Even the farmers were preparing stretchers and bandages in the back, which was both reassuring and deeply unsettling. I stood on my new stone wall holding a real iron-tipped spear, my first actual weapon, and stared into the darkness toward the wolf den. Tomorrow I was poking the biggest, smartest, most dangerous bear in the forest. Well, wolf. But the point stands. This raid would either break the Wolf King's grip on the valley or make him angrier than anything I'd ever faced. Probably both. Definitely both. But copper doesn't mine itself. Crystals don't collect themselves. And wars don't win themselves by hiding behind walls. Dawn was coming. 26 soldiers were sleeping with their weapons. And somewhere upstream, a silver wolf was probably doing the exact same calculations I was, except with better instincts and worse table manners. Tomorrow, we find out who owns this valley. Darkness. Total. Absolute. Can't see your own hand darkness. I watched 26 of my best soldiers melt into the black like ghosts with sharp objects. Lin 3 at the front, iron spearheads glinting in the torchlight for one last second before they vanished upstream. I closed the gate, climbed my stone wall, and became the world's most anxious spectator of my own war. The Chinese broadcast split the screen, one camera on me standing on a wall doing nothing, one camera following Lin 3's squad in creepy night vision. Riveting television. America's commentator called my strategy aggressive. Japan's broadcast showed their sword master meditating under a waterfall because apparently that's more productive than actually playing the game. Someone in Japan's chat said I lacked warrior spirit. Sir, I have 36 soldiers. Your guy has a wet ponytail and zero territory development. At the copper mine, things went sideways fast. 15 wolves were already there, plus a big brown alpha sitting on a rock looking annoyed. Lin 3's squad got spotted immediately. Formation. Now, the crossbow volley was devastating. 5 or 6 wolves dropped before they even knew what happened, like bowling pins made of fur. Iron-tipped bolts plus weapon sharpening research equals instant wolf removal service. The archers followed up with rain of death coverage. For about 10 beautiful seconds, it looked like the easiest fight of our lives. Then the brown alpha charged straight through the arrow storm like it was light rain and slammed into our front line. This thing was tough. Lin 3 intercepted it, sword sparking against claws, and the close quarters nightmare began. Wolves and soldiers tangled together in the trees, crossbowmen scrambling backward, militia stabbing anything furry, archers taking risky point-blank shots. One of my militia guys speared a wolf clean through with his new iron-tipped lance. Beautiful kill, but the wolf's momentum knocked him flat and ripped his arm open to the bone. First real casualty. The medic dragged him away while everyone fought around them. We won. Eventually, the brown alpha took an iron spear to the gut and limped away howling. The remaining wolves scattered. And in 3 water pools near the mine, my soldiers found 4 water essence crystals. 4. That's 4 more chances to send land back to Earth. Grab them and run. But we didn't run fast enough. Oh, whoa, that howl. That howl. It hit like a physical force, a wall of pure rage and killing intent that shook the trees and made the broadcast signal glitch. Every soldier froze mid-step, faces going white. Even through the screen, a billion viewers felt their legs go weak. The Silver Wolf King. He was coming. And he was angry. Retreat. Now. Everyone move. Lin 3's squad grabbed the crystals, grabbed the wounded, and sprinted for the river. Behind them, the ground literally trembled. Dozens of wolves exploding out of the forest like a furry tsunami. And there, in the center of the stampede, I finally saw it with my own eyes. The Wolf King, big as a young bull, silver fur gleaming like moonlight on a blade, eyes burning crimson red, moving with the casual confidence of something that has never, ever lost a fight. It was the most terrifyingly beautiful thing I'd ever seen. And it was staring directly at me across the river, through the chaos, past the fleeing soldiers, straight into my soul on top of my little stone wall. We locked eyes. Him and me. Wolf King, an unemployed college graduate. For one frozen moment, the entire world watched 2 leaders size each other up across a river, and I'm pretty sure the wolf was less impressed. Lin 3's squad crashed into the river. The wolves chased them to the bank, but stopped. The water and my wall-mounted crossbows gave them pause. My soldiers stumbled through the gate, bleeding, gasping, carrying their wounded. I counted heads. 24 came back. 26 went out. 2 didn't make it. 2 young militia guys who'd been alive and nervous at breakfast would never eat again. I didn't know their names well enough. That hurt worst of all. But they bought us 4 crystals. 4 keys to saving our country. For more oases in the desert for 14 billion people. The Wolf King let out one final, long, bone-chilling howl. A promise, not a retreat, and vanished into the trees with his army. The Chinese internet was a hurricane of grief and pride. Heroes, those 2 soldiers. The crystals are worth it, but the Wolf King. What now? What now? I'll tell you what now. I'm standing on a wall with blood on my boots, 4 glowing crystals in my pocket, a depleted army behind me, and the most dangerous predator on this continent preparing to bring his entire kingdom down on my head. The raid was a success. The war just got 10 times worse. And that silver monster now had a personal grudge against the guy on the wall. Me. Dawn came, but the smell of blood didn't leave. 24 soldiers limped through my gate. 2 didn't. I stood on the wall watching them come in, half of them bleeding, all of them exhausted, every single one of them a hero. Honor the fallen. Treat the wounded. Everyone who fought today gets the highest commendation. Thank you. My lord. They roared it with red eyes and cracking voices. These weren't game NPCs to me anymore. These were my people. Lin 3 handed me 4 blue glowing crystals with his good arm. The other one was wrapped in bloody bandages. Mission complete, my lord. The man had fought a wolf alpha in close combat. led a retreat from 50 wolves, and was reporting to me like he'd just come back from grocery shopping. Absolute legend. I sent everyone to rest and immediately went to the stone tablet because those 2 soldiers didn't die, so I could sit around feeling sad. They died so I could do something. 4 water essence crystals went into the tablet. The whole room turned blue. Cool mist everywhere, like standing inside a cloud made of hope. The system scanned. 0.5 square kilometers of river and wetland eligible for transfer. Then the multiplier wheel started spinning. Every person on Earth leaned forward. Chinese chat was chanting, 100, 100, 100, like it was a casino. The Grand Elder was probably crushing his armrest. The number landed. 68. 68x. Half a square kilometer times 68 equals 34 square kilometers of fresh water, rivers, lakes, wetlands, and fish being teleported directly onto the driest, deadest part of northwestern China. The blue light that erupted from my stone tablet made the first materialization look like a flashlight. I could literally feel the river next to my base drop slightly as reality itself got copy-pasted across dimensions. On Earth, in the middle of cracked, barren wasteland, a river appeared out of nothing. Hundreds of meters wide, crystal clear, flowing into a brand new lake surrounded by reeds and marshland. Scientists at the monitoring station were sobbing and hugging each other. Satellite images showed fish jumping out of water that didn't exist 5 minutes ago. Water, on a planet dying of thirst. 34 square kilometers of liquid life. The global announcement hit 3 times. China Representative Lin Tian has materialized 34 square kilometers of water resources. China's reaction was beyond description. People crying in streets, screaming at screens, the broadcast host completely losing his voice. Water. Actual water. The rest of the world went through the 5 stages of grief in about 30 seconds. America's chat, stunned silence, then rage. Japan's sword master was still doing waterfall meditation. Ironic, since I just created a waterfall. India's representative was apparently fighting monkeys over bananas. France's chat was just prayers. Pure, desperate prayers from a country on its last life. First time, they called it luck. Second time, they called it a pattern. Now every government on Earth was having emergency meetings about the Chinese college dropout who kept conjuring real estate out of thin air. No time to celebrate. I trained 4 more crossbowmen, for more militia, and ordered the blacksmith to mass-produce iron weapons. My army rebuilt to 46 fighters, stronger than before the raid. 16 crossbowmen now. 16. I wanted so much ranged firepower that the Wolf King would run into a wall of iron bolts before he got within howling distance. Morning farms delivered 480 food right on schedule. The machine keeps grinding. Then I called my war council. Lin 3, Hawkeye, Iron String, and the new militia captain, Stone Shield. The Wolf King is coming. Not a probe. Not a raid. He's bringing everything. And we're not going to sit on this wall and hope it holds. I pointed at the map. Traps, layered defenses, kill zones. And most importantly, I looked Lin 3 dead in his battle-scarred face. I need a kill squad. Your best fighters. Fastest, toughest, craziest soldiers you've got. One job. Find the Silver Wolf King in the chaos of battle and put him down. Lin 3's eyes ignited like someone had poured gasoline on a bonfire. Wolf Hunter Squad, he whispered, already picking names in his head. Consider it done, my lord. Somewhere across that river, a silver wolf was gathering his army for the final assault. And here I was, gathering mine. 2 soldiers paid for these crystals with their lives. A nation of 14 billion people was drinking clean water because of their sacrifice. And I was going to make sure it meant something by surviving long enough to send more. The final battle was coming. And this time, only one king was walking away from it. Another morning on the wall. My morning routine now. Wake up, don't die. Count soldiers, stare at numbers, panic quietly. 47 fighters, resources looking healthy, 1,375 food, 565 wood, for 197 stone, 50 iron. The farms delivered their morning 480 food like clockwork. Lin 2's agricultural machine was the one thing in my life that never disappointed me. I was about to order more crossbowmen, because my solution to every problem is now, add more crossbows. When something weird happened, a strange feeling hit me, like someone plucked a guitar string inside my chest. Not painful, Not the system talking, just a vibration. A cosmic, something just happened somewhere, notification that I couldn't explain. I shrugged it off. Probably indigestion from stress. Ordered 4 more crossbowmen anyway, because 20 crossbows is good, but 20 is better. Wait, that's the same number. Whatever. More crossbows. Always more crossbows. Then I went to check on Lin 3's Wolf Hunter Squad. 8 absolute psychopaths who'd volunteered to do the most suicidal job imaginable. Charge into a sea of wolves during the final battle and personally assassinate the Silver Wolf King. They were beating the hell out of each other in a corner of the base, practicing combat moves with blunt weapons that still sounded like they hurt a lot. Lin 3 was in the middle of it with his arm still bandaged, correcting people's stances between getting hit. "How's it looking?" I asked. "The fighting spirit is there, my lord. But killing a wolf king surrounded by 50 wolves requires perfect teamwork and," he paused, "got a little luck?" What he meant was, "We'll probably die, but we're going to try anyway." I told him to bring everyone back alive. We both knew that was more of a wish than an order. Then that feeling from this morning made sense. The global announcement dropped like a bomb. Lighthouse Nation Representative Smithjack has materialized 8 square kilometers of saltpeter mineral deposits onto Blue Star. America did it. They found their own crystal and materialized land. 8 square kilometers of saltpeter. Not as big as my 21 square kilometers of forest or 34 of water, but strategically valuable. The arms race was officially multiplayer now. My soldiers heard the announcement and started murmuring. I could see it in their eyes. Comparison, worry, competitive fire. But I didn't say a word about it. Not one. I just turned to the blacksmith and said, "Faster. Sharper." Because here's the thing about other people's success. It doesn't change the fact that 50 wolves with a genius king are sitting across my river right now planning to eat me. America's saltpeter doesn't help me sleep tonight. Japan's sword meditation doesn't block wolf teeth. The only thing that matters is what's happening in this valley, on this wall, with these soldiers. I built a second barracks because 1 barracks producing soldiers isn't fast enough when you're expecting Armageddon. 2 barracks means double the training speed. Math is my love language now. Night came and the wolves started howling. Not the casual, "We're wolves and this is what we do," howling. This was angry, organized, building towards something howling. More voices than before. Closer than before. The Silver Wolf King was gathering his full army, and the sound was like listening to your own funeral being planned in real time. I doubled the night watch. Ordered the Wolf Hunter Squad to sleep in their armor with weapons in hand. Every torch lit, every crossbow loaded, every eye on that dark tree lean across the river. America got their 8 square kilometers today. Good for them. Tomorrow I might not have a territory at all if those wolves break through. The wolf howls kept rising, layering on top of each other, filling the valley like a promise of violence. I gripped the cold stone wall and whispered to nobody, "Bring it." Day 7. My daily food bill hit 138 units just to keep everyone breathing. 47 soldiers and 35 farmers eat a lot. But when I pulled up the overnight resource report, I nearly did a happy dance on my stone wall. Full-day production across all facilities. 1,200 wood, 600 stone, 1,680 food from 14 farms running like clockwork, combined with what I already had. 3,397 food, 1,505 wood, 997 stone, 55 iron. I was rich. Filthy, disgustingly, beautifully rich. A week ago I was squeezing paste from a tube and crying over cabbage. Now I was sitting on a resource mountain that would make actual medieval kings jealous. 2 barracks running simultaneously meant I could train soldiers at double speed. 8 more crossbowmen, boom. For more militia, boom. Resources flying out of my account like confetti at a parade. Nearly 500 food and 400 wood gone in 2 orders. Didn't even flinch. This is what financial confidence feels like. My crossbow army was becoming genuinely terrifying. 20 bolt shooting machines backed by 8 archers, a swordsman legend, and over 20 spearmen. The Wolf King was going to walk into a hurricane of iron. Then the global announcement hit, and I stopped smiling. Japan Representative Ito confirmed dead. Japan remaining chances, 2/3. The Swordmaster. The guy everyone called invincible. The lone wolf who thought personal skill could beat everything. Dead. Here's what happened. Ito saw me materializing land twice and got jealous. He found a glowing pool that probably contained water crystals, got excited, and jumped in sword-first without checking what else lived in that pool. Turns out, a giant mutant squid monster thing was lurking at the bottom. Massive tentacles covered in suction cups and acid. Ito was incredible. He cut through 2 tentacles mid-air, his sword moving like lightning. But you can't fight physics. A tentacle grabbed his waist and crushed him. Another pinned his sword arm. More wrapped around him like living chains. The greatest swordsman in the competition got dragged underwater by a monster he never saw coming. His last word was a curse. Then bubbles. Then nothing. Japan's internet collapsed into grief. Impossible. What was that thing? Their commentators had spent days saying one man's strength was all you needed. Now that man was dead at the bottom of a pond, and his beautiful sword was monster food. Did I feel bad? Yeah, actually. A little. The guy was arrogant and his fans were obnoxious, but dying alone in a dark pool fighting tentacles? Nobody deserves that. Rest in peace, sword dude. You were wrong about everything, but your technique was genuinely beautiful. Chinese chat had the most mature take I'd seen all week. Individual heroism doesn't work here. Resources, army, technology. You need all of it. For once, nobody was gloating. Just quiet understanding that this world kills everyone equally. The strong, the smart, the lucky, the unlucky. I used that death as fuel. Faster training. Recheck every wall. Wolf hunters, final preparations. Because here's what scared me most. Across the river, the forest was silent. No howling. No birds. No movement. After days of increasingly angry wolf noise, suddenly, nothing. That silence was louder than any howl. The Wolf King had stopped posturing, stopped threatening, stopped announcing himself. He was done talking. The next sound from that forest would be 50 wolves charging at my walls with a Silver King leading the way. I stood on my wall staring at that dead-quiet tree-lean, resources converting to soldiers behind me, blacksmith hammering iron like his life depended on it, because it did, and thought about a sword master who believed he was untouchable, right up until the moment something touched him. Nobody is untouchable. Not him. Not the Wolf King. And not me. Japan's sword master dying was the best thing that ever happened to my survival strategy. Not because I'm heartless. Okay, maybe a little, but because it shut up every single person who'd been saying, just be strong, bro. One-man army, bro. Who needs farms, bro? The universe literally fed the strongest solo player to a squid. Lesson. Received. My strategy? The opposite of cool. The opposite of heroic. The most boring, unsexy, accountant-approved approach to warfare ever invented. Build everything. Train everyone. Stockpile until your warehouses cry for mercy, and then fight. Day 7's resource check made me feel like I'd robbed a bank. Food. 3,739 after morning harvest. Wood. 1,505. Stone. 997. Iron. Climbing. My 14 farms were printing food like a government printing money during a crisis. 3 words. Agricultural. Super. Power. And what did I do with all that beautiful wealth? I became the world's most aggressive military recruiter. 8 crossbowmen. 480 food. 320 wood. Gone. 4 militia. 200 food. 80 wood. Gone. 8 more crossbowmen. 480 food. 320 wood. Gone. For more militia. 200 food, 80 wood, gone. I was ordering soldiers like a drunk person orders food at 2 a.m. Yeah, I'll take 8 crossbowmen. Actually make that 16. And throw in some militia. You know what? Keep them coming. My army hit 74 soldiers. 1 elite swordsman, 29 spearmen, 8 archers, and 36 crossbowmen. 36. I had more crossbows than some countries have soldiers. My military philosophy had officially become, if it moves and it's not ours, fill it with so many bolts it becomes a porcupine. But I wasn't done. Resources were still flowing, so I went full infrastructure mode. 6 new farms, because an army marches on its stomach and my army's stomach was getting huge. A 3rd lumber camp. A 3rd quarry. Every order triggered another flash of light somewhere in my base as buildings materialized out of thin air. By noon, my territory looked like a real civilization. Stone walls, arrow towers, 3 barracks, 3 lumber camps, 3 quarries, 20 farm plots, a blacksmith belching smoke, soldiers drilling everywhere. A week ago, this was an empty hillside where I stood alone wondering if a wolf would eat me before starvation did. The afternoon was for training, not spending. Lin Tian's Wolf Hunter Squad ran assassination drills all day. 8 guys practicing how to fight through a sea of wolves and stab one specific silver target. The practice wolves were played by other soldiers who ended up with black eyes and bruised ribs. Teamwork makes the dream work, also makes the bruise work. Evening harvest hit, 720 more food from the new farms. 3 lumber camps pumped out 900 wood. 3 quarries delivered 450 stone. Final numbers at sundown. Food, 3,099. Wood, 1,465. Stone, 1,267. Iron, 65. 74 soldiers armed to the teeth. 20 farms feeding an army. 9 resource buildings running at maximum capacity. I'd done everything humanly possible. Every resource spent wisely. Every soldier trained. Every wall reinforced. Every trap prepared. The Wolf Hunter Squad was sharp and ready. The crossbow line was deep enough to blot out the sun with bolts. The spearmen had iron tips on every weapon. Night fell. I tripled the watch. The forest across the river was dead silent for the second night in a row. No howling. No movement. Nothing. That silence was the scariest sound in the world. I climbed my wall one more time, gripped my iron spear, and stared into the absolute darkness where I knew. Hundreds of green eyes were staring back. Come on then, I whispered. I've been ready since yesterday. You're the one who's late. Somewhere in that blackness, a silver wolf breathed. Waited. Chose his moment. The final battle wasn't tomorrow. It wasn't next week. It was tonight. I could feel it in my bones. The night before the end of the world, I did what any rational person would do. I went shopping. Resources on the table. 3,099 food. 1,465 wood, 1,267 stone, 65 iron. The kind of numbers that make you feel invincible. The kind of numbers that make you do stupid brave things. Like upgrading your entire civilization while a wolf army is sharpening its teeth across the river. Upgrade TO Level 3. Large village, 1,000 food, 800 wood, 400 stone, 50 iron. Vanished. My resource panel looked like it had been mugged, but the glow that engulfed my territory, worth every single unit. The whole base started humming like a living thing preparing to evolve. 8 hours until transformation. 8 hours until I became something the Wolf King hadn't planned for. While the upgrade cooked, I recruited 16 more farmers because empty buildings are just expensive decorations. 20 farms now. 3 lumber camps. 3 quarries. 51 farmers working like the most dedicated ant colony in existence. My food production was so absurd that I could literally feed a small town and still have leftovers. Then the final batch of soldiers walked out of my 2 barracks, and I counted my army one more time. 86 fighters. 86. 1 legendary swordsman. 33 spearmen. 8 archers. And 44 crossbowmen. 44 mechanical death machines that could turn any charging animal into a very fast, very dead pincushion. A week ago, I fought 2 wolves with a sharpened stick and almost died. Now I commanded a small army with specialized units, iron weapons, and researched combat bonuses. The Chinese internet was losing its collective mind. He's going level 3. 44 crossbows. That's not an army. That's a firing squad. Meanwhile, America's Green Beret was quietly licking his wounds after a monster attack, falling further behind. Russia was still wandering through snow looking for crystals. The gap was becoming embarrassing for everyone who wasn't me. 8 hours crawled by like 8 years. I paced. I checked walls. I counted crossbow bolts. I reorganized supply storage. I considered taking up meditation like the dead sword guy and immediately decided against it. Then, as dawn broke, boom. The upgrade completed. Energy slammed through every stone, every building, every person in my territory. Walls grew taller and thicker on their own, gleaming like polished metal. The town center doubled in size. Every single soldier felt the power surge, faster reflexes, stronger muscles, sharper instincts. Even I felt it. My noodle body was now at least a slightly thicker noodle body. Progress. New tech unlocked. Advanced barracks, horse stables, watchtowers, even a basic marketplace. I couldn't build any of it yet, but just knowing it existed made my inner gamer vibrate with joy. For exactly 4 seconds, I felt unstoppable. Then the Wolf King ended my party. AWOO, not a howl. A declaration of war. The ground shook. Birds erupted from every tree in the valley. The sound was so massive, so full of rage and murder intent, that it physically hurt my chest. And then I saw them. Green eyes. Hundreds of green eyes pouring out of the tree like a dam had burst. Not 30 wolves. Not 50. Hundreds. A living tsunami of fur and fangs flooding toward the river, led by the silver wolf king himself. Huge as a bull, white as death, eyes burning blood red, moving with the calm certainty of something that had already decided I was going to die. Every horror movie, every nightmare, every fear I'd ever had, none of it compared to watching that wave of destruction roll toward my walls. I pulled my sword. The iron blade caught the first light of dawn and threw it back at the Wolf King across the river. All forces, battle stations, 86 soldiers moved as one. Crossbows loaded, spears leveled, arrows knocked, stone walls braced. The entire territory transformed from a village into a fortress in the span of 3 heartbeats. This was it. No more farming. No more building. No more counting resources. No more watching numbers go up. Just me, my army, and an ocean of wolves coming to take everything we'd built. 1 week of blood, sweat, toothpaste, nutrition gel, and embarrassing math mistakes. All leading to this single moment on a stone wall at dawn, sword raised against a silver god of war. Let's go. They came like the ocean if the ocean was made of teeth and hatred. Hundreds. Not 50. Not 100. Hundreds of wolves exploding from the tree, flooding the river, turning the water black with bodies. The ground shook under my feet. My stone wall shook under my feet. And the sound of 1,000 wolves howling simultaneously is something I will hear in my nightmares for the rest of both my lifetimes. Hold. Wait for my command. 44 crossbows pointed at the river. 44 pairs of hands steady. 44 triggers waiting for one word. The first wave hit the water. Hundreds of green eyes charging straight at us through the spray. Fire. 44 crossbows fired at once, and the sound was like God clapping. A wall of iron bolts hit the front line of wolves and just erased them. Dozens dropped instantly, crashing into the river, turning the water red in seconds. The level 3 upgrade had made my crossbowmen into absolute monsters. Faster reload, harder impact, bolts punching through wolf hide like it was wet paper. But it didn't matter. More wolves. Always more wolves. They ran over their own dead like living bridges, charging through the arrow storm with 0 fear and 0 hesitation. The river turned into a soup of blood and fur, and still they kept coming. Archers suppressed the rear. Crossbows switched 2 wall climbers. They hit the wall. The sound of hundreds of wolves slamming into stone was like a car crash that never stopped. Claws scraping, bodies thudding, the strongest ones actually jumping and trying to grab the top. My upgraded walls held. Thank God I built stone instead of keeping that stupid fence, but the vibration was terrifying. Spears. Stab everything that moves. 32 iron-tipped spears thrust over the wall simultaneously. Wolves that tried to jump got skewered midair. Wolves that tried to climb got stabbed off the stone. Bodies piled up at the base of the wall so high that the next wave of wolves was literally climbing a ramp of their own dead. This went on for 30 minutes. Half an hour of nonstop killing. My soldiers' arms were burning, sweat pouring, some guys getting clawed when they leaned too far over. Replacements rotating in. Crossbow bolts running lower and lower. The wall was holding, but my people were reaching their limit. Then the Wolf King made his move. He howled. One sharp, cutting note, and his 12 elite guard wolves scattered in every direction like guided missiles, each one bigger and faster than anything we'd fought before, all targeting different wall sections simultaneously. Divide and overwhelm. And the Wolf King himself? He didn't charge the wall. He sprinted along the riverbank toward our weak side. The genius was going to flank us while his elites created chaos at the front. Wolf hunters. He's going around. Intercept. Lin 3 didn't even hesitate. He jumped OFF the wall. 3 meters straight down. Hit the ground rolling, sword already drawn. 7 squad members followed him off the edge like the craziest paratroopers in history, landing hard and sprinting to cut off the silver blur. All ranged units. Cover the hunters. Suppress those elites. Arrows and bolts shifted targets, punching into the elite wolves trying to chase Lin 3's squad, buying them precious seconds. Lin 3 hit the Wolf King at full speed. His sword came up from below, aimed at the belly, a kill shot. But the Wolf King was fast. It twisted in midair, dodged the blade by inches, and whipped its tail like a steel cable into Lin 3's guard. The impact sent him skidding backward, coughing blood. 3 crossbow bolts from the squad screamed at the Wolf King's face. It deflected 2 with its skull and dodged the 3rd, which nicked its neck and drew first blood. That just made it angrier. It lunged at the nearest crossbowman. Your fight is with me. Lin 3 threw himself back in, sword blazing, refusing to let it reach anyone else. Steel and claw collided over and over, sparks flying, blood from both sides hitting the dirt. But the Wolf King was too strong, too fast, too tough. The hunters attacked from every angle, spears, bolts, blades, but could only leave shallow cuts. Meanwhile, it was destroying them. One guy got swatted into a tree so hard I heard bones crack from the wall. Another took a claw across the chest. Lin 3 was on one knee. The Wolf King opened its massive jaws for the killing bite. I grabbed a heavy crossbow from the soldier next to me, aimed at that gaping mouth, and pulled the trigger. The bolt missed the mouth. The Wolf King snapped its jaw shut and twisted, but buried itself deep in the side of its neck, almost punching through. AWO though, the Wolf King screamed. Not a howl of power, a scream of pain. Its body locked up for one heartbeat. One heartbeat was all Lin 3 needed. He erupted off the ground like a human missile, grabbed his sword with both bloody hands, and drove it into the wound the bolt had made, straight through the neck, until the handle disappeared. The Silver Wolf King looked at Lin 3 with those crimson eyes. I swear I saw disbelief in them. Then rage. Then, nothing. The light went out. The massive silver body crashed to the earth like a falling tower, and the ground trembled one final time. The king was dead. Every wolf on the battlefield stopped, froze, looked at their fallen god. Then one howled, not in anger, but in pure, broken terror. The entire army shattered. Hundreds of wolves turned and ran, tails between legs, whimpering, trampling each other to get away. In 60 seconds, the battlefield went from apocalypse to silence. My soldiers stood on the blood-soaked wall, staring at the carnage below, and for a long moment nobody made a sound. Then someone screamed, "We won," and the wall erupted. 86 voices, minus the ones that would never speak again, screaming victory into the dawn sky, crying, hugging, collapsing from exhaustion, laughing hysterically. I was doing all of those things simultaneously. Down below, Lin 3 stood over the Wolf King's body, covered head to toe in blood, mostly not his own, leaning on his sword because his legs had stopped working. The hunters around him were wrecked. Broken bones, deep gashes, barely standing. I looked across the battlefield. Wolf corpses everywhere, piled against my walls, floating in the Red River, scattered across the field. I'd won. We'd won. But some of my people were lying still on the ground too. Some of them would never get up. I gripped the wall and let out a breath I'd been holding for a week. War is paid for in blood. Victory doesn't change the price. It just decides who's still standing to pay it. We were still standing. Barely. Bloodied. Broken in places. But standing. The cheering lasted a solid 5 minutes before I snapped back into boss mode. Victory is great. Victory that you don't capitalize on is wasted. Medics, save everyone you can. Drag every wolf carcass inside. Ranged units, stay alert for stragglers. First stop, Lin 3. My absolute unit of a swordsman was standing over the Wolf King's corpse, leaning on his blade like a bloody cane, breathing like a broken accordion. His left shoulder had a claw wound so deep I could practically see his skeleton waving at me. But his eyes? His eyes were alive. More alive than I'd ever seen them. "How are you feeling?" I asked, trying not to stare at his exposed shoulder bone. Something inside me broke through, my lord. Then the system dropped the most beautiful notification I'd ever received. Unit Lin 3 has transcended mortal limits. Promoted to Warrior General. Current rank, 3rd tier, a Warrior General. Lin 3 had literally leveled up from killing the Wolf King. He'd unlocked something called Chi Force, some kind of internal energy that boosted his attack, defense, and even made nearby troops fight harder. He went from really good soldier to actual fantasy wuxia character in one boss fight. From today, you are my first general, I announced dramatically. He dropped to one knee. Your general accepts. His voice hit different now. Deeper. Heavier. Like the words themselves had muscles. Then came the loot. Oh my God, the loot. My farmers started butchering wolf corpses, and the resource notifications went absolutely berserk. 2,850 units of wolf meat. 103 wolf pelts. 210 bones. 415 fangs. And the crown jewels. The silver wolf king's hide. Rated, outstanding. 2 king fangs. Rated, superior. And 1 vial of wolf king essence blood. Rated, rare. I went from, resources are tight, to, I'm swimming in dead wolf products like a morbid Scrooge McDuck. The meat alone solved my food situation for weeks. The pelts could become armor. The bones and fangs were crafting materials. And the king's materials? Those were endgame tier treasures. With resources flooding in, I went on the most satisfying upgrade spree of my entire career. Every single militia soldier walked into the barracks as a guy with a pointy stick and walked out as something terrifying. 20 militia became halberdiers, long weapons, heavy armor-piercing power, perfect for wall defense and pushing forward in formation. 12 militia became sword and shield warriors, heavy shields, sharp blades, built for close quarters brawling and bodyguard duty. The transformation was insane. Watching 32 scruffy spearmen go into glowing barracks and come out looking like professional medieval killing machines was like watching a montage from every war movie ever made. Except it was real and happening in MY base. My army roster now read like a proper military document. 1 third-tier warrior general, 20 halberdiers, 12 sword and shield fighters, 8 archers, 44 crossbowmen, 85 elite combatants with upgraded weapons, upgraded armor, upgraded everything. Wood went negative from all the spending. Didn't care. Not even a little bit. My 3 lumber camps would fix that by tomorrow. 20 farms were churning food. 3 quarries were mining stone. 51 farmers running the entire economic machine like a well-oiled medieval factory. As the sun set and turned my territory gold, I watched the fallen soldiers get buried with full honors. Their names carved into stone near the town center. They'd earned that and more. I stood on my wall, my beautiful, blood-stained, unbroken wall, and looked out over a valley that was finally, completely, undeniably mine. No more goblins. No more Wolf King. No more threats I couldn't handle. A week ago, I was an unemployed college graduate who drooled over cabbage. Now I had a general, an army, a fortress, and a nation counting on me to keep winning. The sunset felt earned. Every single ray of it. The Wolf King was dead, the wolves were gone, and my territory was booming like a startup that just got infinite funding. Level 3 village bonuses were kicking in everywhere. Faster resource collection, quicker training. Even the air felt richer. Life was good. Life was really good. First order of business, the Wolf King's blood. Not regular blood, magic blood. A vial of concentrated life force sealed in crystal, radiating so much power I could feel it through the container. This wasn't something you waste on a building or a weapon. This was a gift for the person who literally stabbed a wolf god through the neck. Lin 3. You killed the king. This is yours. The look on his face was like a kid getting a puppy on Christmas, except the puppy was a vial of monster blood and the kid was a battle-scarred warrior general covered in bandages. He knelt, took it with both hands like it was the Holy Grail, and went into seclusion to absorb it. Meanwhile, my economy was going nuts. Wolf meat, 2,850 units. Meant I could feed my entire population for weeks without farming. Wolf pelts becoming armor. Bones and fangs becoming crafting materials. My upgraded soldiers, 20 halberdiers with armor-piercing weapons, 12 sword and shield fighters built like tanks, were drilling in formation looking like they'd walked out of a historical war drama. The international reaction was beautiful. America's Green Beret finally found a tiny copper mine and was acting like he'd discovered El Dorado. Japan's stream was just sad replays of their dead sword master. Russia's colonel killed a giant bear, which was impressive but didn't exactly expand his territory. Everyone was falling behind, and they knew it. Then Korea happened. The global announcement hit, and I had to read it 3 times to make sure I wasn't hallucinating. Korea representative has activated ancestral kimchi jar replica and materialized zero point 0.5 square kilometers of salt alkaline soil containing special lactic acid bacteria, half a square kilometer of kimchi dirt. With bacteria, I materialized a river, a forest, an oasis that saved a nation. Korea materialized a pickle farm. Their chat was doing Olympic-level mental gymnastics. This is cultural victory. Kimchi is a world treasure. Even the interdimensional rules recognize our cuisine. Meanwhile, every other country's chat was just keyboard smashing with laughter. Someone typed, "Congratulations on your 0.5 kilometers pickle patch," and I genuinely almost choked. Look, respect for getting any land materialized. That's more than most countries managed. But the item was called ancestral kimchi jar. I can't make this stuff up. The universe has a sense of humor, and Korea was the punchline. Then my communicator lit up with the national emblem, and the Grand Elder's voice rang in my head. Our weekly 5-minute phone call, the most important conversation in Chinese national security. Lin Tian, on behalf of the nation and all its people, thank you. The oasis and the water system you created are being studied as we speak. The soil is incredibly fertile. The water contains unknown algae with insane purification capabilities. You have given us hope. I'm not going to lie. Hearing that from the most powerful person in China while standing in a blood-stained medieval town hall on an alien planet made me feel things I didn't know unemployed college graduates could feel. His advice was solid. Explore the Wolf King's den for hidden resources and help Lin 3 develop his qi energy using ancient breathing techniques from Chinese texts. 5 minutes flew by, and the call ended. Then Lin 3's door exploded open. Not literally, but the energy blast that came out of his room rattled every window in the building. He walked out looking like a completely different human. His presence filled the room like a physical weight. His eyes practically glowed. The system confirmed it. Lin 3 promoted 2 second-tier warrior general. New combat skill unlocked. Earth-splitting slash. Second tier. The Wolf King's blood bumped him up an entire rank. He went from really strong guy to one-man army who can crack the ground with his sword. He told me he felt like he could fight 3 of his old self simultaneously. I believed him. The man was radiating danger like a space heater radiates warmth. My lord, permission to lead the expedition to the Wolf King's den. I looked at my general, battle-hardened, blood-enhanced, chi-powered, and grinning like a kid about to open the biggest present under the tree. I looked at my army, 85 elite soldiers with upgraded weapons and unbreakable morale. I looked at my territory, 3-level fortress with stone walls, arrow towers, 20 farms, and resources flowing like rivers. Permission granted. Rest today. Tomorrow at dawn, we march on the wolf's den and see what that silver bastard was hoarding. Somewhere in heaven, the original owner of this body was watching me command armies and conquer territories, and probably wondering why I couldn't have put this much energy into his job applications. Rest day lasted exactly long enough for Lin 3 to stop bleeding, and then I sent him right back into danger. Because that's what good leadership looks like apparently, giving your best soldier a single day off before sending him into a dead Wolf King's cave. Employee of the month, every month, forever. His expedition team was 25 of my nastiest fighters. They marched into that den like it owed them money and came back carrying treasure. 2 energy crystal cores, slightly drained but still usable. 70 units of bright silver, or way more than I expected. 3 pieces of thunderstruck wood, which is exactly as cool as it sounds. And the big discovery, a small underground crystal mine with an estimated 200 energy crystals and 10 space shards still buried in the rock. The Wolf King had been sitting on a fortune this entire time. No wonder he fought so hard to keep this valley. That furry hoarder had better loot than most video game dungeons. While Lin 3 was cave raiding, I spent the day reading the most intimidating shopping list I'd ever seen. Upgrading to small town. The next level required 8,000 food, 5,000 wood, 3,500 stone, 800 iron, 5 energy crystals, 50 units of rare building materials, 10 different building types, 300 total population, at least 1 general, 60% elite troops, and 1,000 reputation points. 8,000 food, 5,000 wood. My brain almost blue-screened. That's not a shopping list. That's a mortgage. The bright silver from the Wolf Den got me past the rare materials requirement, and my reputation was already over 1,200 from all the conquests and materializations. But the basic resources? I'd need to multiply my entire economy several times over. Good news kept coming, though. The Level 3 upgrade unlocked incredible new buildings, a market for trading with other representatives, a beast-taming facility, hello, future werewolves, a medical clinic for faster healing, an upgraded blacksmith that could forge bright silver chain mail and lightning wood weapons, a watchtower with 1.5-kilometer detection range. My inner gamer was vibrating at frequencies only dogs could hear. I built the market immediately, and within hours, I got my first diplomatic message. From Russia. This is Iwan from the Polar Bear Nation. Your development is impressive. I have spare furs and cold iron ore. Want to trade for food and bright silver? Russia's colonel, the Violent Bear, himself, was sliding into my DMs asking for groceries. The same guy whose fans spent a week bragging about his impenetrable fortress was now asking the unemployed college kid for a trade deal. Oh, how the turntables have turned. We can trade. Let's discuss ratios. I kept it professional, but inside I was doing cartwheels. Cold iron ore was perfect for heavy weapons, exactly what my army needed. And I had food coming out of my ears. 20 farms producing enough grain to drown in. This was a win-win, but let's be honest, it was more of a win for me. Then America dropped their own flex. Global announcement. Smithjack built a mechanical workshop and could now upgrade his militia into heavy crossbow cavalry, mobile, armor-piercing, mounted shooters. A completely different military philosophy from my infantry fortress approach. His army would be fast and punchy. Mine would be deep and unbreakable. Different answers to the same question. The race was heating up. America had mobility. Russia had resources to trade. I had the biggest economy, the strongest general, and a crystal mine waiting to be excavated. I ordered a 4th lumber camp, a 4th quarry, maximum soldier production, and told the blacksmith to start experimenting with bright silver armor immediately. The path to small town was going to be a marathon of resource grinding, diplomatic trading, and strategic building. But for the first time, I could actually see the finish line. And somewhere in the afterlife, Japan's sword master was watching all of this unfold and probably thinking, maybe I should have built a farm. My army was getting so specialized it needed its own HR department. Latest addition, bodyguards. 10 of my biggest, meanest sword and shield guys got pulled into the barracks and came out looking like human refrigerators with tower shields the size of doors and iron-plated armor that made them. Basically walking walls. I called them the Iron Guard, for a sign to follow me everywhere, because apparently being the most important person on 2 planets means I should stop walking around unprotected like an idiot. The other 6 got parked at the town center and warehouse, because if someone steals my grain, the whole operation collapses. Chinese chat went absolutely feral. He has bodyguards. Now, presidential security detail. Nobody's touching our boy. Meanwhile, America's fans were staring at their Green Berets single cavalry unit type and quietly having an existential crisis about troop diversity. The Russia trade went through beautifully. Cold iron ore for food and bright silver. Iwan got his groceries. I got heavy weapons material. The man who spent a week bragging about being self-sufficient was now literally dependent on my farming empire for survival. Capitalism wins again. Then the system updated my territory panel for the first time in full detail, and seeing everything laid out was like looking at a report card where I actually got straight A's for once in my life. Territory level, large village, tier 3. Reputation, 1,250, far renowned. Total population, 202 people. Army, 96 pure elite soldiers. Resources, over 4,000 food, 3,200 wood, 3,800 stone, 180 iron, 70 bright silver, energy crystals, thunderwood, the works. 20 farms, 30 houses, 3 lumber camps, 3 quarries, upgraded barracks, blacksmith, market, stone walls, arrow towers, medical clinic under construction. The global audience saw these numbers on the live stream and collectively lost their minds. 96 soldiers, and every single one was an elite class. No basic militia left. 0. My army was 100% premium quality fighters. The Age of Empires system template advantage was becoming undeniable. While other representatives had to manually figure out training programs and equipment blueprints, I just pressed buttons on a magic tablet, and soldiers walked out fully geared. It was like having a cheat code that wasn't technically cheating. I was reviewing what I still needed for the small town upgrade. Spoiler, a lot of everything. When the market operator came sprinting toward me like his pants were on fire. My lord. Emergency distress signal on the market board. Anonymous representative. Coordinates not far from us. They're being attacked by undead creatures and offering space crystals for rescue. Signal cut off mid-transmission. Undead. Undead. As if wolves and goblins weren't enough. Now there were zombies in this world. Or skeletons. Or liches. Whatever flavor of dead things that won't stay dead this continent preferred. But space crystals? Those were on my shopping list for the town upgrade. Incredibly rare, incredibly valuable, and someone was literally offering them in exchange for not dying. The smart play was to stay home, keep grinding resources, and ignore some strangers' problems. The ambitious play was to march out with my army, save whoever was screaming for help, collect rare crystals, gain intelligence about a new enemy type, and flex on the entire world simultaneously. Guess which one I picked? Lin 3. 40 halberdiers, 20 crossbowmen, all 10 iron guards. With me. We're going on a rescue mission. Iron String, you're in charge of defense while I'm gone. I was about to personally lead 70 soldiers into unknown territory to fight. Undead monsters I'd never seen before. All because someone on a medieval Craigslist posted help me, and I'll pay you ad. A week ago I couldn't fight 2 wolves. Now I was marching my private army across the continent to fight the literal living dead. Character development is a beautiful thing. Iron String looked at me like I'd lost my mind when I announced the rescue mission. My lord, undead are unpredictable, and we'd be fighting on unfamiliar ground. Iron String, my friend, someone out there is offering space crystals to not die. Do you know what space crystals are worth? More than your concern. More than my safety. Possibly more than this entire valley. We're going. 73 of us marched out. 40 halberdiers, 20 crossbowmen, 10 iron guards, Lin 3, and me in the center surrounded by human refrigerators with tower shields. The most firepower I'd ever taken outside my walls. Back home, Iron String had 24 soldiers and stone walls to hold the fort. Should be fine. Probably. Hopefully. The Chinese internet was split 50-50 between, this is so cool, and he's going to die. America's commentator called my strategy aggressive for the 400th time. Russia wished us luck, which was sweet considering I'd just sold them groceries. Japan's chat was still depressingly silent. The deeper we marched, the creepier everything got. Trees went from green to dead. Air went from fresh to something rotted here and never stopped rotting. The ground turned gray and lifeless, like the earth itself had given up. Sulfur and decay, the official cologne of undead territory. Then our scouts came back looking pale. Sir, we found bodies ahead. Not human. Some kind of natives. And they're moving. The dead ones are moving. Oh good. Zombies. My favorite. We pushed forward and found a nightmare in progress. A crude stone outpost was surrounded by an army of undead. Most were basic skeleton soldiers, rusty swords, green fire in their empty eye sockets, moving like drunk puppets. Mixed in were actual zombies, rotting flesh, horrible smell, slow but strong enough to rip you apart. And floating behind them all, directing traffic like the world's worst orchestra conductor, was a skeleton mage in a tattered black robe, waving a bone staff and literally raising the dead. Every fallen native got turned into a new skeleton soldier. Infinite reinforcements. That's cheating. That's absolutely cheating. Inside the outpost, whoever sent the distress signal was barely hanging on. A few stocky warriors in crude metal armor, and one skinny figure casting weak healing spells. Their arrows were almost gone. They had minutes, not hours. Formation. Halberdiers advance. Crossbows. Free fire. Kill that mage first. Iron Guard. Protect the flanks. For the Lord, kill. Lin 3 exploded forward like a missile made of rage and sharpened steel. His chi aura was visible now. A faint glow around his blade that made undead nearby literally flinch. My halberdiers marched in perfect formation, their 2-meter weapons sweeping through skeletons like brooms through dust. Long weapons versus bony idiots with rusty swords? No contest. Bones everywhere. 20 crossbow bolts hit the skeleton line simultaneously. Skulls popped like rotten melons, soul fires winking out instantly. Several bolts screamed toward the mage, who threw up a bone shield just in time. Blocked most of them, but staggered hard. Spell interrupted. But there were so many. More skeletons crawling from shadows. Bigger ones with bone shields. And the broken skeletons were reassembling under the mage's power. Bones crawling across the ground trying to reform. Like horror movie building blocks. Crossbows pulverized the bones. Nothing left to reform. Lin 3, take out that mage. Lin 3 took a breath, channeled his chi, and unleashed his new skill. Earth-splitting slash. His sword hit the ground, and a shockwave ripped forward in a fan shape, shattering 7 or 8 skeletons into powder instantly. A clean corridor opened straight to the mage. The crossbowman poured bolts into both sides of the path, keeping it clear. Lin 3 sprinted through. The mage panicked and shot bone spears at him. He deflected them like swatting flies. Almost there. Almost. 2 giant skeletal claws burst from the ground and grabbed at his legs. A buried bone demon ambush. Lin 3 jumped and slashed downward, but the claws were iron hard, sparking against his blade, stopping his momentum for 1 critical second. The mage charged another bone spear, aimed right at Lin 3 hanging in the air with nowhere to dodge. One of my iron guards, absolute legend, threw his tower shield like a frisbee directly into the spear's path. The bone projectile smashed into the shield and deflected. The guard was now defenseless, but Lin 3 was alive. Lin 3 hit the ground, exploded forward one final time, and drove his sword straight through the mage's skull. The soul fire inside went out like a blown candle. The mage collapsed into a pile of old bones and bad fashion choices. Every remaining undead on the battlefield instantly went stupid. Movement slowed, coordination vanished, bones stopped reassembling. Without their puppet master, they were just spare parts. Full attack. Clean everything. My army rolled through the remaining undead like a steamroller over crackers. 3 minutes, and it was over. Nothing but bone dust and silence. The survivors in the outpost were staring at us like we'd descended from heaven. Short, stocky warriors with big eyes and an exhausted healer. Clearly not human, clearly not from Earth, and clearly very happy to not be dead. I straightened my armor, walked toward them with my iron guard escort, and prepared to do something I'd never done before on this continent. Diplomacy. Also, I was going to collect those space crystals. Business is business, even after saving someone's life. And somewhere in the back of my mind, one question kept nagging. If that was just one skeleton mage with basic undead, what happens when we meet whoever's making them? The dust settled, and out of the ruined outpost walked the most adorable killing machine I'd ever seen. A dude who came up to my chest, built like a fire hydrant made of muscle, with a beard so massive it had its own zip code. He was carrying a battle axe bigger than my torso and covered in undead goo. Behind him were 2 more compact murder machines and 1 tall, skinny person with pointy ears holding a wooden staff. Dwarves. And an elf. I was living in a fantasy novel, and the side characters just showed up. Strong Lord. The lead dwarf boomed in an accent so thick you could spread it on toast. I am Copperbeard Stonehoof of the Stonehoof clan. Without you, we'd be bone puppets right now. He punched his own chest so hard I winced. Lin Tian. China. What happened here? His face went dark. The Black Tide. A skeleton lich crawled out of some ancient tomb tunnel and started converting every dead body into new soldiers. Infinite army cheat. We were here trying to mine a small vein and got completely surrounded. Then he reached into the world's dirtiest-looking bag and pulled out 3 crystals that looked like someone had captured actual starlight inside glass. Space crystals. 3 of them. Swirling with silver light. Humming with dimensional energy. A deal is a deal. We dwarves always keep our word. He shoved them into my hands like he was returning borrowed tools. 3 space crystals. Combined with the 10 still buried in my crystal mine back home, I was stacking rare resources like a dragon hoarding shiny things. The town upgrade was getting closer with every mission. The elf, Ayla, wood speaker, offered her services too. She could grow plants faster and do basic healing magic. My inner strategy gamer started vibrating. Dwarves who can mine and forge. An elf who can supercharge farming. These weren't just survivors. They were premium DLC characters. So I made them an offer they couldn't refuse. Move near my territory. I'll protect you and share food. You mine, forge, and grow things for me. Deal? Copperbeard's beard literally stood up with excitement. Deal. You're a real one, Lord Lin Tian. The Stonehoof clan recognizes you as friend. He looked like an excited puppy that happened to be made of granite and carry an axe. The Chinese internet was going bananas. He recruited dwarves and an ELF, mining specialists and a nature mage. This is the most broken party composition in history. Someone typed, Lin Tian is speedrunning every fantasy trope simultaneously, and honestly, fair point. Then, because this adventure apparently came with a bonus prize, one of my soldiers found a black stone tablet under the skeleton mage's remains. The system decoded it, a partial map to something called the burial grounds, plus fragments of undead summoning rituals. Warning: using necromancy may cause insanity and alignment shift. Cool. So I now possessed forbidden dark magic instructions. Filed under, absolutely not touching this, but interesting to know about. Understanding how the enemy works doesn't mean becoming the enemy. I'm an unemployed college graduate, not a dark lord. Although at this point the line is getting blurry. We marched home with our new friends, Copperbeard, Ayla, a dozen dwarf warriors and elf apprentices, looking like the most culturally diverse medieval field trip in history. Back at base, I set them up immediately. Dwarves paired with my mining chief Lin Tian to redesign our quarry operations. Ayla paired with farmer extraordinaire Lin Tian to experiment with crop enhancement. Space crystals locked in the vault. Necromancy tablet sealed and stored under guard because I don't need that kind of temptation in my life. My territory now had humans, dwarves, and an elf working together. My army had just crushed undead in a foreign land. I had trade deals with Russia, alliance with indigenous species, and enough rare materials to start dreaming about the town upgrade for real. But that stone tablet nagged at me. The skeleton mage was just a scout, a small advance force of something called the Black Tide. Whatever factory was producing these undead was still out there, still operational, and probably still very, very hungry. I'd solved the wolf problem. I'd solved the goblin problem. I'd solved the food problem, the housing problem, the military problem, and the diplomatic problem. The undead problem? That one was just getting started. I came back from fighting undead with dwarves and an elf and immediately did what I do best: spend resources like they personally offended me. 10 new farm plots, a 4th lumber camp, a 4th quarry, 30 new farmers, 8 halberdiers. For crossbowmen, I was placing orders so fast the stone tablet probably needed a cigarette break afterward. Resources were flying out of my account like birds escaping a cage, but I didn't care because I'd learned the most important economic lesson of 2 lifetimes. Money sitting in a warehouse is money doing nothing. My new friends were already earning their keep. Copperbeard and his dwarf buddies went prospecting and found a rich iron vein on the west side of my territory within hours. Apparently, dwarves can literally feel metal underground, like some kind of geological Wi-Fi. Their mining guidance boosted my extraction efficiency by 50%. 50. Lin Tian almost cried with joy. Ayla the Woodspeaker did her nature magic thing on a few test fields, and the crops started growing visibly faster. 20% production boost just from an elf whispering sweet nothings to wheat. Lin Tian, my farming general, looked at her like she was a goddess descended from agricultural heaven. I think he might be in love with her farming technique. Obviously, I sent 4 scouting teams in every direction: north, south, east, west, 5-kilometer radius, mapping everything. Resources, threats, other players, mysterious ruins, whatever's out there. Knowledge is power, and I was power-hungry in every possible sense. Then Japan got their new representative, and the entire internet simultaneously winced. Saito Kanzuya, office clerk, mid-20s, skinny, thick glasses, wrinkled suit, clutching a briefcase in a dark cave looking like he'd accidentally taken the wrong subway and ended up in hell. He activated his town heart and got a shack that made MY Day 1 setup look like a luxury resort. Then he tried to pick berries and got scared by a spider. A regular-sized spider. He fell on his butt and sat there shaking. Japan's chat was in agony. Why a clerk? He's afraid of spiders. We used to have a sword master. Someone typed, at least Lin Tian was funny when he was useless, and honestly that's the nicest thing anyone's ever said about my early game. I felt a tiny bit bad for the guy. Tiny. I'd been him 8 days ago, confused, scared, completely unqualified. The difference was I had a gamer brain, and the universe accidentally gave me the Age of Empires cheat code. This poor dude had a briefcase and a phobia of small insects. The war continent was going to eat him alive. Possibly literally. Meanwhile, my territory was hitting numbers that belonged in a financial report, not a survival game. Evening harvest across 30 farms. 3,600 food units in one batch. Total food, 6,580. Wood production from 4 max lumber camps with 20 workers, roughly 2,500 per day. Stone from 4 quarries with dwarf-enhanced efficiency, around 1,300 daily. Iron flowing in steadily from the new rich vein. I pulled up the town upgrade requirements one more time. 8,000 food, almost there. 5,000 wood, one more day. 3,500 stone, basically done. 800 iron, getting close. Special materials, covered. Buildings, covered. Population, over 200. Military, 100% elite. Reputation, exceeded. 1 or 2 more days of grinding, and I'd have everything. The finish line wasn't just visible anymore. I could reach out and touch it. Small town Tier 1 was coming, and with it would come cavalry stables, advanced buildings, higher tier troops, and the kind of power that would make every other representative on this continent very, very nervous. Somewhere in a wet cave, a Japanese office worker was crying about a spider. Somewhere in my territory, a dwarf was punching rocks with his bare hands, and an elf was serenading my crops. Life on the war continent had never been better, which probably meant something terrible was about to happen. But that's a problem for tomorrow me. Tonight me was going to sit on his wall, count his resources, and enjoy being the most successful unemployed person in the history of 2 planets. Copperbeard got his mining operation running, and within hours my iron problem went from painful shortage to we literally can't carry it fast enough. 20 miners, dwarves handling the dangerous technical stuff, humans hauling rocks, hammering away at the richest iron vein any of us had ever seen. The sound of dwarf pickaxes hitting was the most beautiful music in the world. Better than any song. Better than birdsong. The sweet, sweet rhythm of industrial progress. I didn't slow down for a single second. 5 more farms. 20 more farmers. 8 more halberdiers. For more crossbowmen. At this point I was placing build orders like a kid playing a clicker game. Tap, 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 tap. Except every tap created actual buildings and real soldiers. My territory had become a machine that turned time into power. Every hour, more food. More wood, more stone, more iron, more soldiers. The numbers just kept going up. Then Japan's second representative died, and I honestly felt my soul leave my body for a second. Saito Kanzuya, the office clerk, the guy with the briefcase and the spider phobia. He survived exactly 1 day. Know how he died? He tried to dig deeper into his starter cave, with 0 mining knowledge, 0 geological understanding, 0 anything, and collapsed the entire thing on top of himself, buried alive by his own ceiling. The broadcast showed shaking, screaming, then static, then a gray flag. Japan was down to their last life. 3 representatives. A legendary sword master killed by a tentacle monster. An office worker crushed by rocks he dug wrong. 2 deaths, 0 territory gained, 0 resources materialized. Their internet was in full existential meltdown. Why can't we get someone competent? We're going to be erased. The gods have abandoned us, and the punishment was real. 15% of Japan's actual homeland resources just vanished. Real infrastructure disappearing. Real panic in real cities. I paused for maybe 2 seconds when I heard the announcement. Not out of coldness, out of necessity. I couldn't save Japan. I couldn't save anyone except my own people. And my own people needed me focused. Because when I pulled up my resource panel, I saw something that made my heart beat faster than any battle ever had. Every single requirement for the small town upgrade met. I stared at that checklist like a student who just realized they passed every exam. My hands were actually shaking. 8 days of farming, fighting, dying, building, trading, diplomating, and spending resources like a maniac, all leading to this moment. Tomorrow morning, we upgrade 2 small town, Lin 3, Iron String, Lin 2. Everyone in the room erupted. Fists pumping, voices roaring. The kind of energy you only get from people who've bled together and built something from nothing. But I wasn't about to let anything ruin this. Not goblins, not wolves, not undead, not a random bear with bad timing. Lin 3, full sweep. Every mobile unit. Comb everything within 5 kilometers. If it has teeth and isn't on our payroll, remove it. I want nothing alive out there that could interrupt tomorrow. Multiple kill squads fanned out across the valley like a medieval pest control service, clearing out stray animals, leftover goblin stragglers, and anything else that looked at my territory funny. By sunset, the valley was clean. The farms were golden. The forges were burning. The walls were gleaming. 350 people, humans, dwarves, and one elf, were all working toward the same goal. Tomorrow I would stop being a village and become a town. The first town on the war continent. The first real civilization built by the guy everyone laughed at on day one. And somewhere across the sea, Japan was praying for a miracle with one life left, while I was about to level up into something nobody could ignore. Funny how the world works. The sword master died in a pond. The office worker died in a hole. And the unemployed gamer who drooled over cabbage? He was about to become a king. I put my hand on that stone tablet and said the words I'd been dreaming about for days. Upgrade. 2. Small. Town. The tablet didn't just glow. It detonated. Light poured out like someone had cracked open a star and poured it over my entire territory. Not blinding, warm, heavy, unstoppable. The ground started pulsing like a heartbeat, and I swear the earth itself took a deep breath and flexed. Then everything started transforming. My stone walls grew, like living things. Taller, thicker, turning that polished blue-gray color of stone that's been hammered by 1,000 years of weather. The walls expanded outward, swallowing new farmland and resource buildings into their protective embrace. My janky town center rebuilt itself into an actual administrative hall, tall, imposing, the kind of building that says, someone important lives here and they have an army. Every single building upgraded simultaneously. Houses got sturdier. Barracks expanded. Warehouses doubled. Roads appeared, actual roads, connecting everything in a proper network. And at the 4 corners of my territory, massive guard towers sprouted from the ground like stone trees, each one loaded with heavy crossbow emplacements. I went from medieval village to actual civilization in about 60 seconds of magical real estate renovation. Upgrade complete. Territory level, small town, Tier 1, new buildings unlocked. Academy for research. Relay station for fast communication. Arsenal for weapon storage. Workshop for advanced crafting. New soldiers. Heavy armored pikemen. Walking tanks with massive iron spears. Elite crossbowmen. Longer range, harder hitting, the kind of ranged unit that makes enemies reconsider their life choices from 300 meters away. And the best part? Management system. I could now officially appoint officers with titles and specific responsibilities. My territory was getting a government. Everyone went absolutely berserk. Soldiers banging weapons on shields. Farmers crying happy tears. Copperbeard laughing so hard his beard was bouncing. Even Ayla smiled, which was basically her version of a standing ovation. China's internet reached temperatures that probably violated physics. First small town on the continent. Those walls are gorgeous. Heavy armored pikemen sound terrifying. He started with a shack, and now he has a city. I immediately went full bureaucrat mode. Lin 3, military commander, controls all armed forces. Iron String, crossbow division leader. Lin 2, director of agriculture, working with Ayla. Copperbeard, workshop superintendent, running all mining and forging operations. In 10 minutes, I built a functioning government that was probably more organized than some actual countries back on Earth. New elite soldiers started rolling out of the barracks immediately. Heavy armored pikemen. These guys wore so much iron plating they looked like they'd been swallowed by a suit of armor. Their spears were longer, thicker, and tipped with steel that could punch through a castle door. Elite crossbowmen carried next-generation weapons with complex mechanical systems that fired harder, faster, and further than anything we'd had before. My academy started researching farming improvements and weapon upgrades. The relay station began mapping internal routes. Everything was clicking into place like the world's most satisfying puzzle. Then the scouts came back with news that made my resource-addicted brain light up like a Christmas tree. 4 kilometers northwest, a major river with fertile flatlands on the other side, perfect for expansion. 6 kilometers north, an exposed coal mine. Coal means higher temperature smelting. Higher temperatures mean better steel. Better steel means weapons that cut through anything. I stood on top of my new administrative hall and looked down at what I'd built. Massive walls gleaming in the sun. 30-plus farms stretching to the horizon. Forges smoking. Soldiers in heavy armor patrolling in perfect formation. Hundreds of people, humans, dwarves, and elf, all working together in a town that didn't exist 9 days ago. 9 days. 9 days since I was a skinny nobody squeezing fake food from a tube, praying that China wouldn't get stuck with someone useless as their representative. Plot twist. China got stuck with someone useless. He just refused to stay that way. I didn't have a sword master's blade. I didn't have a special forces background. I didn't have superhuman strength or magical powers or even basic athletic ability. I had farms. I had spreadsheets in my brain. I had the stubbornness of a man who played Age of Empires until 3 a.m. on a work night. And I had people. Incredible, loyal, terrifyingly brave people who turned my clumsy plans into reality with their blood and sweat. The wind blew across my walls, carrying the smell of fresh bread from the bakeries, iron from the forges, and something new, something that smelled like the future. Somewhere out there, bigger enemies were waiting. The Black Tide, other nations' champions, threats I couldn't even imagine yet. Let them come. I'm not an unemployed college graduate anymore. I'm the mayor of the first town on the war continent, commander of an elite army, ally of dwarves, friend of elves, nightmare of goblins, slayer of wolf kings, destroyer of undead, and the guy who turned a desert on Earth into a paradise. And I'm just getting started. The upgrade high lasted about 30 seconds before I opened the next upgrade requirements, and my jaw hit the floor so hard it probably left a dent. Tier 2 small town needs: 15,000 food, 10,000 wood, 8,000 stone, 2,000 iron, 1,000 coal, a resource I didn't even have yet. 3 different rare materials at 100 units each. A brand new materialization crystal. 15 different building types. 500 population. 2 generals or 1 first-tier general. 70% advanced troops. 10-kilometer control radius. 3 town-level research projects completed. 3,000 reputation points. I read it twice, then a third time. Then I considered lying down on the floor and giving up. Then I remembered 14 billion people were watching me and stood back up. Challenge accepted. I went full CEO mode. Every resource building maxed out. Copperbeard got sent north with an engineering team to build a coal mine at the newly discovered deposit. Because you can't smelt advanced steel without coal, and I can't upgrade without advanced steel. The Academy started researching crop rotation, irrigation systems, and crossbow improvements simultaneously because apparently my territory now has a university. Patrols expanded outward to establish forward bases at the 10-kilometer perimeter. More farmers recruited to colonize the fertile land across the northwestern river. Plans drawn up for a riverside dock. The machine was moving. Then Lin Tian's team hit the jackpot at the coal mine. While clearing the area, they found a hidden crack in the mountainside, and inside that crack was something that made every previous discovery look like finding a quarter under a couch cushion. A Geovian stone core, size of a wash basin, warm, yellowish, and when I looked inside it I could see ghostly images of mountains and underground rivers flowing through it like a living geological map. This thing was alive with earth energy. The system described it as a rare materialization medium that specifically transfers land and mineral deposits. Not water like the last crystals. Not generic energy like the first one. This thing copies dirt and ore. On a planet where 70% of the surface is desert and every mine is running dry. A crystal that creates new mineral-rich farmland is basically a divine artifact. Chinese internet reaction. He found another one. This one makes mines and farmland. Is he cheating? Is the universe rigged? Someone very wisely pointed out. It's not luck. He explored. He fought. He built the coal mine that led to the discovery. Luck doesn't knock on doors you never opened. That person gets it. Thank you, anonymous internet philosopher. The Tier 2 upgrade needed a new materialization medium. I was literally holding one in my hands. The universe keeps throwing problems at me, but it also keeps hiding the solutions right next to the problems. Like a teacher who wants you to struggle but doesn't actually want you to fail. Then, because my life follows the ancient narrative law of good news must be followed by bad news, the Northern Outpost sent an emergency report. 5 kilometers from the coal mine, something big was moving. Not wolves, not goblins, not undead. Something new, unknown, and described as huge, aggressive, and definitely not happy about us being here. Of course, there's a monster guarding the resource. There's always a monster guarding the resource. This is basically a video game designed by a sadist. Lin 3. Take every heavy pikeman, every elite crossbowman, half the regular crossbows, all 10 iron guards. Get to that coal mine now. Find whatever's lurking out there, figure out what it is, and if it's hostile, which it obviously is because everything in this world wants to kill me, destroy it. Protect the stone core. Protect the coal mine. Lin 3's eyes lit up like I'd just given him a birthday present wrapped in violets. Yes, my lord. My army marched north looking like a steel avalanche. Heavy armor gleaming, crossbows loaded, the ground shaking under hundreds of iron-clad boots. I stayed behind to run the town, staring at the sand table, moving pieces, calculating resources, worrying about my general, worrying about the unknown monster, worrying about everything. 9 days ago, scared, alone, armed with a sharpened stick. Today, mayor of a town, commander of an army, sending my second-tier warrior general to fight mystery creatures while I manage a multi-species economy with dwarves, elves, and 200 humans. The road to Tier 2 was going to be longer, harder, and more expensive than anything before. But somewhere in a mountain crack up north, a warm stone was pulsing with the power to create entire landscapes. All I had to do was survive long enough to use it. Story of my life, honestly. I didn't wait for Lin 3 to finish clearing the northern threat. Waiting is for people who don't have a magic rock that can copy-paste entire landscapes across dimensions. I had the Geovane stone core in my hands, warm and pulsing like a geological heartbeat, and I was not going to let it sit in a warehouse collecting dust while monsters decided whether to attack my coal mine. Maximum alert. Walls on highest guard. Iron string, you're in charge of defense. If anything twitches wrong, kill it first and file paperwork later. Yes, sir. Then I walked up to my stone tablet, pressed the Geovane core into the slot, and whispered, "Do your thing, magic dirt rock." The tablet didn't shoot light into the sky this time. Instead, it glowed downward. Deep, heavy, earth-brown light that pulsed like a giant underground heartbeat. The ground itself started vibrating in rhythm. Boom, boom, boom. Not scary. Powerful. Like the planet was doing push-ups. The system scanned 3.1 square kilometers of land and everything underneath it to 100 meters deep, including my iron mine, including whatever geological secrets were hiding under my feet that I didn't even know about. Multiplier wheel spinning. Every human on Earth holding their breath. Again, you'd think they'd be used to this by now. They are not. 55 times. 3.1 times 55 equals 170.5 square kilometers of land, soil, and here's the part that made grown men cry. A massive rich iron deposit underneath it all. Not a little vein. Not a decent mine. A mega deposit of premium-grade iron ore with estimated reserves that dwarfed every known iron mine in China. On Earth, somewhere in the Western Highlands, 170 square kilometers of fertile land with rolling hills and black, oil-rich soil materialized out of thin air. And underneath that beautiful dirt, an iron mine so big that geologists were literally screaming into their radios. Mega deposit. Highest grade. This changes everything. The global announcement fired 3 times. China Representative Lin Tian has materialized 170.5 square kilometers of land and a strategic-grade iron deposit. Previous materializations made countries jealous. This one made them afraid. Land is nice. Water is essential. But iron? Iron is tanks. Iron is buildings. Iron is bridges, railways, weapons, industry. Iron is the skeleton of civilization. I just gave China enough iron to rebuild itself from scratch. America's president was reportedly screaming at his staff. Russia's colonel drank an entire bottle of vodka in silence. Countries that hadn't found any crystals yet were spiraling into political chaos. And China? China was having a national holiday that nobody officially declared, but everybody was celebrating anyway. My territory felt different after the transfer. Heavier, more solid, like the land itself had been reinforced from the inside. The stone core crumbled to dust, its job done, its legacy now permanently embedded in Chinese soil 13,000 kilometers away. Then Lin 3's battlefield report arrived and snapped me right back to reality. My lord, contact with unknown hostiles confirmed. Mountain giant apes. Adults stand over 3 meters tall. Extremely strong. Thick fur acts as natural armor. They throw boulders. Estimated population, 30 to 50. They've fortified a mountain valley that's practically a natural fortress. We're in a standoff. Awaiting orders, 3-meter-tall apes. That throw rocks. 30 to 50 of them. In a fortress valley. Because of course the thing guarding my coal mine is an army of King Kongs who figured out siege warfare. Why would it be something easy? Why would anything in my life ever be easy? But here's the thing. I just materialized 170 square kilometers of iron-rich paradise for my country. My confidence was at an all-time high. My army was elite. My general had cheap powers. And honestly, after wolves, goblins, undead skeleton mages, and tentacle monsters that eat sword masters, giant apes felt almost refreshingly straightforward. Tell Lin 3, do not charge the valley. Use crossbows to harass from range. Seal every exit. Starve their position. I'm sending reinforcements and enough armor-piercing bolts to turn that valley into a porcupine convention. Copperbeard, faster smelting. I need iron arrows, iron bolts, iron everything. If it's pointy and it's metal, I want 1,000 of them by tomorrow. The apes had chosen to sit between me and my coal mine. Bad career decision on their part. I had a town, a forge, a dwarf, and an economy that could manufacture their extinction. 3 materializations complete. An oasis, a river system, and now an iron empire, all stamped onto Chinese soil. Total land gifted to my country. Over 220 square kilometers of premium real estate on a planet that was dying of resource starvation. And I was still just getting started. The Tier 2 upgrade was waiting. More crystals to find. More enemies to crush. More land to create. Somewhere in heaven, the original owner of this body was watching me turn his sad little life into a continental superpower and probably thinking. All he needed was a beer spill and a keyboard. I should have done that years ago. Lin 3 versus 30 giant apes that throw boulders. Sounds like a terrible movie pitch. It was actually Tuesday for us. These mountain apes were ridiculous. 3 meters tall, covered in fur thick enough to stop a knife. And their idea of combat was picking up rocks the size of dining tables and launching them like furry catapults. Their golden-furred alpha stood at the top of the valley like a hairy king on a throne, roaring orders while his subjects rained geological destruction on anyone stupid enough to approach. A direct charge? Suicide. But I didn't build the world's largest crossbow army to charge things. I built it to shoot things from very, very far away. Lin 3 understood the assignment perfectly. 3 rotating squads of crossbowmen, each taking turns stepping forward, firing armor-piercing bolts, then rotating back while the next squad moved up. The heavy pikemen formed a wall to catch any stray boulders. The Iron Guard blocked debris with their tower shields like they were umbrellas in a rock storm. It was the most boring, methodical, beautiful slaughter I've ever witnessed. The apes couldn't reach us. Our bolts reached them just fine. Every few minutes, another 3-meter ape would scream, clutch a bolt sticking out of its hide, and tumble off its perch. The armor-piercing tips punched through their thick fur like it was cardboard. When reinforcements arrived with fresh bolts, the arrow coverage became so dense the sky literally darkened over the valley. The apes went from angry to confused to scared in about 20 minutes. Finally, the Golden Alpha roared one last heartbroken howl and led his surviving 20-something apes crashing through a weak wall and fleeing into the deep mountains. We didn't chase. Chasing giant apes into unknown mountains is how you end up as a cautionary tale in someone else's story. Then came the real prize. Deep in the ape's nest, my soldiers found a boulder the apes had been sitting on like a throne, black as midnight. But when light hit it at certain angles, tiny silver stars sparkled inside it. A soldier hit it with a knife. It rang like a bell. Lin 3 tried cutting it with his steel dagger and barely left a scratch. He sent a sample back to me at top speed. I pressed it against the stone tablet, and the identification came back instantly. Stellar iron ore, outstanding grade. Contains trace stellar energy. Extremely hard, excellent flexibility, superior energy conductivity. Top-tier material for forging legendary weapons and special constructions. Stellar iron. The stuff that falls from space and is harder than anything humans can make. The kind of material that in any fantasy game would have a golden name tag and sparkle effects. And there was an entire vein of it in that valley. Those apes had been using priceless space metal as furniture. I named the valley Stellar Valley immediately because I'm dramatic like that. Copperbeard got dispatched to evaluate the deposit and start experimental smelting. The dwarf was going to lose his mind when he saw this stuff. Dwarves and rare metals are like kids in candy stores. The Tier 2 upgrade needed 3 different rare materials at 100 units each. I already had bright silver at 70 units. Close. Now stellar iron, freshly discovered. That's 2 out of 3. 1 more rare material, and the checklist would be complete. Chinese viewers were comparing me to a fantasy protagonist collecting plot coupons. He's gathering the infinity stones. 3 materializations, 2 rare ores, a dwarf forge master, and an elf farmer. This is the most stacked party in RPG history. I stood over my sand table, staring at the blank eastern and southern sections of the map. Somewhere out there was the last rare resource I needed. Somewhere out there were enemies I hadn't met yet, allies I hadn't found, and crystals I hadn't grabbed. The ape battle was won with exactly 0 casualties on my side. Pure tactical superiority. No heroics needed. Just math, distance, and an unreasonable number of crossbow bolts. 9 days ago, I almost died to 2 wolves. Today I defeated 50 giant apes without losing a single soldier, discovered space metal, and materialized 170 square kilometers of iron-rich land for my country before breakfast. The gap between pathetic and unstoppable turns out to be exactly 1 age of Empire's cheat code and an unhealthy obsession with crossbows. 2 rare materials found. 1 to go. The treasure hunt continues. After the ape victory, I did something I hadn't done since arriving on this continent. I sat down and actually read my own spreadsheets. Like, properly. With numbers and columns and everything. My inner programmer was finally getting his moment. Army headcount, precise this time. No more guessing. 148 soldiers. 1 second-tier warrior general. 45 heavy armored pikemen built like walking tanks. 38 elite crossbowmen who could hit a fly at 300 meters. 35 regular crossbowmen for volume fire. 8 archers for scouting. 10 iron guards who existed solely to make sure nothing ate me. 12 sword and shield guys for everything else. Every single one a combat veteran. Not a raw recruit in the bunch. I decided to stop mass recruiting soldiers for once. I know, shocking. The guy who spent 9 days screaming, "More crossbows," finally said, "Enough crossbows." Character growth. Instead, I'd focus on making my existing army better, upgraded gear, sharper tactics, and finally building the elite Breaker Battalion that Lin 3 had been begging me about since the Wolf War. Then I went full nerd on my buildings. Every single structure, what it does, how many people it needs, exact output per hour. 30 farms needing 30 farmers producing 120 food each per cycle. For lumber camps with 20 workers making 2,400 wood daily. For quarries with 20 miners churning out 1,200 stone. Iron and coal mines running under Copperbeard's supervision. Academy researching 3 technologies simultaneously. Market monitoring trade opportunities. Workshop experimenting with stellar iron prototypes. Relay stations speeding up communications. My territory had become so complex it basically needed a PowerPoint presentation to explain. I was managing over 100 farmers, nearly 150 soldiers, multiple allied species, for active research projects, 8 resource extraction facilities, trade relations with Russia, and defensive perimeters stretching kilometers in every direction. I used to manage code repositories. Now I manage a civilization. Honestly, the skill set transfers better than you'd think. With internal affairs handled, I turned to the map, specifically the big empty spaces labeled. We have no idea what's here. East, mystery hills and forests. Sent 30 elite soldiers to explore 15 kilometers out. Mission: find rare resources, jade, special wood, anything I didn't have yet, and check for other representatives who might be neighbors. Friendly or otherwise. south, river downstream, and whatever was on the other side. Another 30-soldier team, same range. Map the terrain, find resources, and investigate whether anyone else had been sending distress signals from that direction. North, Lin 3 holding Stellar Valley, carefully pushing deeper into the mountains, looking for the retreating ape's main territory or any hidden mountain treasures. Emphasis on carefully because I was done losing soldiers to surprise encounters. 3 exploration teams fanning out across the continent like the world's most heavily armed cartography expedition. The Tier 2 upgrade shopping list was slowly getting checked off. Basic resources accumulating fast, food, wood, stone all climbing toward those massive targets. Coal mining operational. Iron production boosted by dwarven expertise. 2 rare materials confirmed, bright silver and stellar iron. Just need one more rare resource, and I'm golden. Chinese chat was watching me do math on a live stream and somehow finding it exciting. This is strategic genius. He's managing everything like a CEO. I feel like I'm watching someone play Civilization, but it's real. Someone commented. Steady expansion, careful planning, no unnecessary risks. This is the way. The flashy era of desperate survival and dramatic battles was fading. This was the boring, crucial, unsexy middle chapter where empires are actually built. Through logistics, planning, resource allocation, and bureaucratic efficiency. I was no longer the underdog fighting wolves with sticks. I was an administrator running a multi-species town with a professional army, an industrial base, and a research department. Less cinematic? Sure. More effective? Absolutely. Somewhere out there, my scout teams were pushing into unknown territory, looking for the last piece of my upgrade puzzle. And somewhere in the back of my mind, a quiet voice kept reminding me, the black tide was still out there. The undead were still manufacturing, and the continent had barely shown me its teeth. But for now, spreadsheets. Sweet, beautiful, perfectly organized spreadsheets. The unemployed college graduate had become a bureaucrat, and he'd never been more dangerous. I pulled up the Tier 2 shopping list next to my actual resources and stared at the gap like a college student comparing their bank account to rent day. The reasonable response would be to gradually scale up production and patiently work toward those numbers over the next few days. I am not a reasonable person. Recruit 100 farmers. 100. In a single order. 2,000 food gone. Just like that. The stone tablet probably thought I'd lost my mind. 100 pillars of light later, I had a small village worth of fresh workers standing in front of me looking eager and confused. But I wasn't done. Not even close to done. 20 new farms, 2 more lumber camps, 2 more quarries, 2nd iron mine, 2nd coal mine. I was slamming the build button so fast my hand was a blur. Resources hemorrhaging out of my reserves like a burst pipe. Wood, stone, food, everything dropping. My accountant brain was screaming. My gamer brain was laughing maniacally. Growth requires investment, baby. When the dust settled, my production empire looked like this. 50 farms, 6 lumber camps, 6 quarries, 2 iron mines, 2 coal mines, all running at maximum capacity with specialized workers. Daily output projections made me dizzy. 6,000 food per day, 3,600 wood per day, 1,800 stone per day, iron and coal pouring in under Copperbeard's dwarf-powered supervision. These weren't village numbers anymore. These were industrial numbers. I was basically running the medieval equivalent of a Fortune 500 company. Then Copperbeard waddled in carrying something that made every soldier in the room stop and stare. A full suit of armor. But not just any armor. This thing was a masterpiece. Layered metal plates overlapping like mountain ridges, incorporating regular iron, bright silver alloy, and a thin coating of stellar iron on the critical zones. He called it mountain pattern iron armor, 30% lighter than pure iron plate, 50% stronger, especially good against smashing and stabbing. He was practically vibrating with pride, beard bouncing with every word. I touched it. Cold, smooth, perfectly balanced. The kind of armor that makes enemies look at your soldiers and think, maybe I should reconsider my career choices, mass produce it. Now, Lin 3's troops get it first. Copperbeard saluted with his fist and marched off singing a dwarf mining song at full volume. That little rock-loving maniac was worth his weight in stellar iron. My scouts were sending back discoveries too. The eastern team found an entire forest of ironwood, trees so dense and hard that the wood was basically plant-flavored metal, perfect for construction and weapons. The southern team confirmed the downstream land was incredibly fertile and spotted what looked like artificial excavation marks on the far bank. Someone or something had been digging there. Another representative? Natives? Mystery for now. I stood over my sand table watching the numbers climb in real time. Every hour, hundreds of units of every resource flowing into my warehouses. The gap between what I had and what I needed was shrinking visibly. Wood would hit 10,000 within 2 days. Stone was almost there. Iron climbing steadily. Coal needed a push, but the second mine was already helping. 2 rare materials identified. 1 more to find. The eastern ironwood forest was promising, if it counted as rare construction material. I might be looking at resource number 3 right now. The Chinese audience was watching me do industrial planning on a live stream, and somehow it had higher ratings than actual television shows. He recruited 100 farmers in 1 click. 6 of everything. The numbers are going up so fast I can't read them, someone typed. This isn't a survival stream anymore. This is an economics lecture, and I'm riveted. 10 days ago, I couldn't feed myself. Today, I ran an economy that produced 6,000 units of food daily, employed hundreds of workers across multiple species, and had a dwarf designing custom armor in my basement. The Tier 2 upgrade was no longer a dream on a checklist. It was a countdown. And somewhere out there, my last rare resource was waiting to be found. I could practically smell it. Or maybe that was just Copperbeard. Dwarves aren't known for their hygiene. The morning sun was barely up when 8 broken soldiers stumbled through my east gate looking like they'd crawled out of hell's recycling bin. 8 out of 30. Their captain, Zhao Taizhu, was missing an arm. Just gone. Tied off with a ripped piece of his own uniform. Face white as paper, barely standing. He tried to salute me and almost collapsed. I caught him before he hit the ground. Undead. Ironwood forest. It was a trap. He told me everything between coughs and sobs. They'd entered the forest, and it seemed fine at first. 5 kilometers in, the dead came alive. Skeletons buried under every log, behind every stump, pouring out of the ground like an ocean of bones. Skeleton archers shooting arrows coated in black rot that made flesh decompose on contact. Armored skeleton warriors with inhuman strength. And worst of all, stitched abominations. Monsters made from sewn-together corpses and broken bones that could swat 3 heavy pikemen through the air with a single backhand. 22 of my soldiers. Dead. Bodies not even recoverable. 10 heavy pikemen. 12 elite crossbowmen. Gone in minutes. This iron-tough veteran wept openly in front of everyone. 22 brothers. Nothing left of them. My hand was gripping his shoulder, so hard my veins were popping. I closed my eyes. Breathed. Open them. Get them to the medics. Now, my voice came out flat and cold. Something inside me had shifted. Their blood will not be wasted. I turned to face Lin 3, Iron String, Copperbeard, and every officer within earshot. You all heard that. An undead army is sitting 15 kilometers east of here. Organized. Massive. They already murdered 22 of ours. And they're coming for US next. Silence. Heavy, crushing silence. Effective immediately. Total war. Every resource in storage converts to soldiers and weapons. Everything. I hit the stone tablet like I was punching it. 30 heavy pikemen, 3,000 food, 2,400 wood, 300 iron, gone. 40 elite crossbowmen, for 1,000 food, 3,200 wood, 400 iron, gone. My resource panel went from comfortably wealthy to absolutely cleaned out in 2 orders. Weeks of careful accumulation evaporated in seconds. I didn't flinch. Dead soldiers can't spend savings. Copperbeard. Stop all research. Every forge, every hammer, every dwarf. Weapons only. Armor-piercing bolts. Spare crossbow parts. If it's sharp and it kills bones, I want mountains of it. Copperbeard grabbed his warhammer so hard his knuckles went white. Dwarf forges burn only for the destruction of enemies. He roared it like a battle cry and sprinted to the workshop. The furnaces erupted within minutes. Lin 2 and Ayla got wartime logistics. Iron String got double-wall defense on the eastern side. Every watchtower aimed east. Patrols running day and night. My peaceful farming simulator had officially ended. The entire town switched from economy mode to war factory in under an hour. Farms went quiet. Barracks glowed nonstop. The blacksmith's hammering never ceased. Around the world, everyone else was having their own nightmares. America's Green Beret was fighting poison-clawed forest creatures that moved like shadows. Russia's colonel was chopping fish people in half with a giant axe on a frozen riverbank while screaming, "Ura!" Japan got their third representative, some historical strategy nerd, named Takeda Shinjin, who was actually competent. He calmly directed his starter militia to disable wild beasts by targeting their leg tendons instead of trying to look cool. Smart. Methodical. Japan might actually survive this time. And India's guy was hiding in a shed while his farmers got chased by regular wolves. Just regular wolves. No comment. But none of that mattered to me right now. I stood on my east wall wearing the new mountain pattern iron armor, cold, heavy, gleaming, staring into the distance where an army of the dead was building strength in a forest made of metal trees. 22 names I'd never get to say again. The undead weren't a future problem anymore. They were here. They were organized. And they had already drawn first blood. I gripped the wall and made a promise. To the 8 survivors, to the 22 dead, to every person watching on 2 planets. These bones were going to break.